It's great
not
having
on
you
here.
here, by the way.
Oh, it's not.
No.
I got you. I thought you said it was on there. Do we
No.
have it? I understand.
Because I was gonna, talking with Jerry and stuff, I thought, is that something that we have to add to the agenda?
I mean, if
Okay.
you guys want to, it is ready. But like I said, I don't know.
Well, I guess the only thing that really needs to be discussed is what the limits are, or is agree on
Yeah.
how many, and, well, I mean.
It's that one's actually the
limits.
longest of the three. It'd be good to have guys read at home as they answer questions. But yeah, we're meeting in 2 weeks, so
And since harvest is done, I have to sit down and look at our current municipal code and our
Steven,
zoning.
have you heard the new
requirement
OWL,
stuff.
like the
I'm
OWL
sure that
camera
code
thing?
enforcement stuff can get.
OWL Pro.
Has Jay,
It's like
how's he doing anyways with that?
this big and just
I haven't
sits in the
talked
room
to
and
him.
then it
No
turns
news.
around
Oh, yeah.
whenever
I think
whoever's
waiting on
talking.
us.
Yeah.
We ready to roll?
Yeah, we're
I'd
on.
like it to be turned around that way facing you.
It's the benefit of being the tech person.
Huh.
Photographer gets to control the
Kind of
camera.
like a one-way
If and when you
mirror.
get paid for it, then it has
He's
to
just
be
gonna
flipped
sit there
around.
through the meeting and swivel it
Mm-hmm.
side to
Okay.
side.
We
Well,
get a lazy Susan.
whoever's speaking at.
Yeah, we just, yeah.
Okay. It is 7:04 on August 11th, 2021. I'd like to call the the first regular city council meeting to order. Is there any visitors who would like to be recognized? None. Okay. Additions to agenda. I know I have at least one.
I had one too.
Okay.
There's a couple.
The approval of the 8-4 special meeting minutes.
Oh, I wrote it in there. I just didn't put it on the additions. Okay.
So I think you'd probably just put it right after the July 14th one.
Yeah, I had it in there for notes too.
What's the date of the minutes you have?
8-4, the special meeting on August 4th. That's what these minutes are here,
Yeah.
just to approve them. Gary's the one that told me about it, so I wasn't here, but
You were
Okay.
busy.
Peter.
Two items. One is the weed situation in the city and what policy the city has this year about eradicating them.
Lots of spray.
And the other is the yard waste bin.
Okay. I have two additions. One is the bill, the time schedule for paying bills. I guess it's a good way to word it. Bill payment options.
Okay.
And the other one actually falls into something that we have on there for the ARPA funds. So I will
Say
leave that off.
AARP or ARP?
American Rescue Plan.
Okay.
ARPA. But it goes under the COVID, so we don't need to add that.
Okay.
Any more additions?
Not for me.
Okay. Move on to, let's start with the let's start with the July 14th meeting minutes.
It's
actually
So, yes.
August 4th.
Correct.
Okay.
So those, and
Oh, we should have July 14th and August 4th.
there should be two different ones,
Yes.
but I don't
Yeah.
see the 14th ones.
Yeah, you're right.
We had our regular meeting on the 14th.
I don't see the minutes in any of the stuff that got sent out to us. The July 14th minutes. I don't see
Okay.
them here.
I didn't receive them either.
Let's go to the August 4th. That was a special meeting.
Move to accept the minutes as presented for the August 4th, 2021 special session.
Second.
Discussion?
I just want to see if they used to do it like. So I wasn't here, but I told you guys I wasn't going to be here.
Right.
And so I was an excused absence. So they used to put on there like excused,
Okay.
so it doesn't
You
look
want to
like
add your name and then put excused next to it?
yeah, or just something somewhere else, or not, just so it wasn't like I skipped out or something.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, hearing nothing else, all in favor, signify of the August 4th special meeting minutes, with one correction, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Okay, opposed, same sign, abstained, Justin. So, thank you, passes 4-0-1. Okay, let's move on to bills while we're waiting for those minutes. Give you guys time to look at them.
Check register bills.
Yeah.
Just me
Couple
use the check
questions.
register unusually small.
It's definitely smaller. There's some bigger amounts and a little bit different formatting too. Go ahead, Peter.
AAA testing. We've gone from 650 last month to 1,000 and 1,900 this month. Is it different testing?
Nope. So this includes the testing as well as some wages paid. So this was June and July billed together. We have an increase in Casey's fees for the short duration of the contract water portion. So that was an additional amount. She made 2 trips to Harrington to do our testing. So stuff that Scott usually did. When we had no one, she visited and completed that. So there's some
Those
time.
2 trips amount to the increase in payment to her?
They contributed to it, correct? That was a portion of it. So we have our wastewater contract that we usually pay is $600. So there's $400 in there for contract clean water. Her time paid for testing. That was I think there was about a month in there where we didn't have any employees, so she did our testing for us. And then there's additional money in there for Scott's wages as well.
Okay, thank you.
What, let's see. The contract
Sorry
with
about that, folks.
Lincoln County Sheriff, how often do we pay them?
Quarterly.
Quarterly, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that clarification.
And that should, you guys
Apologies.
should see that go down, obviously. Casey won't be needing to make trips for, testing. And then Scott's hours that are here, Scott's hours that he will be putting in will come to a close essentially. We have both of our, other licensed people with us, so maybe a little bit of training. But as far as the wastewater, that training should conclude or has concluded, and then there'll be probably a day's worth of training in there on the water for Derek.
Has anybody from the city actually seen the AAA labs?
I mean, the results?
Actually been to the facility, you mean?
Yeah.
No.
I've driven by it. It's in Cheney.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
I've
inside
seen
the
the
building.
door, but I've seen the sign. But Scott's the one that usually used to go there every. I mean, Scott would take the stuff there
Yep.
as a
Is it-
city employee.
Is there only one location or is there multiple?
I think it's just
the
one.
one at a Cheney.
Are there any competitors to AAA?
There are.
Have we looked into that?
We use one of them, which is Anatech.
And they're on Third Street.
Yeah, they're somewhere
Thank
downtown.
you, Jerry.
Or maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
So yeah, that one was unusually high. There will be a little bit of residual on the next billing cycle, but
Thank you.
the one after that should go down drastically.
Thanks, Jerry.
I mean, the AAA was here when I was here. I mean, when
Yeah.
I was the mayor. I mean, I remember I used to deal with her mom, with Casey's mom.
Correct.
Casey's mom was the one that was the lab, and then she retired. But Casey did the contract,
Sure.
so. But I don't know whoever set that up originally.
Yeah.
So it's been
Long before us. You're gonna see a bill on there for phones.
Inland Cellular.
Yep, and then cellular. So both Devin and Derek have phones now. They're Scott took the number, the 7210200 with them, which was fine. We didn't have to keep that number. We got 2 new numbers, 2 new phones, cases, and then the lines added on to our current inland cellular plan. They're both smartphones with their applications that they're gonna have on their phone for our GIS stuff. Both the stuff that we have now and hopefully that we get done later. Email, other stuff like that. I wanted that as a resource for those guys. The phones aren't cheap. They're $400 a piece, but Inland had a $150 credit per phone that they gave us. So that saved us $300. There's an activation fee, unfortunately. And then I bought some phone cases for them, which I don't think that's on this register yet. But so that's the drastic increase for the inland cellular bill that you guys see.
Did we buy phones for the retirees, retired public works employees?
No,
the phone that Scott had. The fire department paid for when they upgraded.
We didn't share that expense.
not the phone.
not the expense of the phone, because they're the ones that wanted a smartphone, so they paid for that upgrade.
I see.
And we were requested to reimburse the fire district for 6 months worth of the bill. They paid their bill full. That line has still not been moved off of our account, so that will decrease some. We will still probably end up writing them a check for maybe the remaining
Is that
4 months or
a
something.
difficult chore to do that? A ton of paperwork with that?
Shouldn't be.
No, I don't think so.
Who is Wesco, JVA Moore?
Westco is our light pole parts.
Okay.
That is part of an insurance claim. And Jerry, everything with that insurance claim is done and through as far as paperwork and payment, correct?
Oh, that's.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, I believe so. The light pole is up, standing finally.
And the payment to Sunshine,
2 months worth.
I see.
Yep,
Thank you.
I had that written down here. I knew that was a large bill and would probably get some attention.
And Steve Morris was here last August 4th. What's the TD&H bill for 1,500?
Engineering.
Yeah, that's part of the engineering for the West Adams Street project, which is obviously reimbursed through our TIB
That's not a
fund.
change order or anything like that. It's just part of the.
No, that's
Okay.
just time billed through the project.
Thanks, Jerry. And the paper. Okay. Are we gonna be getting that periodically through the project? These charges from T?
Yeah, I think we've
think
spent
we-
probably 35,000 through there already.
Okay.
For plan specification, that's the PS&E, for their, as they do work, we're billed for that and then obviously reimbursed through the grant. But yes, you will see that come through numerous times.
What's this mileage reimbursement for Derek and Devin?
Mileage reimbursement for personal vehicles, for driving personal vehicles on business time,
Why were they doing that?
because we didn't have a pickup.
They had to drive into Spokane,
Okay.
and we didn't have,
A vehicle for them.
it was stuck in the shop.
Where is that at on here? What number is that?
It's on the it's this new one here
Yeah.
on the bottom,
Big one.
Okay.
2 bottom ones.
What are we paying, what's the per diem, how much a mile?
55 and a half probably.
55.5?
No, we're not. Paying, if I can find it again, 56 cents a mile.
Okay,
That's Washington State's.
okay, it was
Mileage.
55.5, but, okay, half a cent, yeah. And we also pay, is that, do we buy gas on top of that?
Just mileage.
Yeah.
That's what they're supposed to buy is gas with that.
I was just looking at the fuel bill, compare, I mean, yeah, we got more stuff going
That's,
on.
yeah, we had pretty low fuel bill the prior month when nobody was here, and then
And the price of fuel was going,
Yeah.
had gone up, so.
it's definitely done that.
And this, I mean, this would be diesel and gasoline, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Any other questions on the bills? We hit the big ones that I had noted here to talk about.
Is the Christine Moretz, is that for the library?
Correct.
At some point, just so that when it eventually comes to priority, it's no surprise to anyone. I still would like to have a discussion when we get some more important things out of the way about why the city's buying subscriptions to newspapers. But
Why the city what?
it has subscriptions to newspapers.
That
I
could
think
be the
we're
that
legally
could be the
obligated
library.
to.
It could come out of the library fund.
Is that what you're
Yeah.
getting at? The city in general, or just the city versus?
Is it
library?
noted on the bills? Is that where you,
It's down here. It's on 594.
okay.
We
Yeah.
get a bill for the city and a bill for the library.
But is it just a
Wait,
for
wait,
record?
wait. To imply that we have two subscriptions? So the city's taking the paper and the library's taking the paper?
As far as I know. That's
Well,
the
then I
way
really don't understand that.
I inherited it.
I'm not blaming you.
So-
Is that for this? We'll have to look at that because it could be there's two different papers that are here. I wonder if the city pays for.
Davenport Times,
Sure.
so that's a record.
Could be. If that's the case, if we're buying two subscriptions to the same newspaper, then yeah, I think we should change that. But and I don't know that
I think
this.
it's one of each.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. I think I don't know this for sure, so I kind of feel like I'm talking out of turn, but I think we're legally obligated to have the paper, have the last four issues of the paper here on hand at all times.
Hmm.
Is that our paper of record that
No,
we're required to?
no. I can look at it. I don't know that for sure.
And US Bank is just a credit card?
Yep. Well, snafu with that, that it got to the point where it wasn't working, so I think we got that all figured out. Did we figure out why it stopped working? Or they didn't have an explanation? Anyways.
No, they just sidestepped that issue. It was more important to get the right names to the account.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Okay. A motion on the floor and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor of approving the bills, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Do you want to do the second set of minutes, or you guys want some time to look through those? we can even table them and do them at the next meeting.
I would be prepared to vote on it. The only note that I would have is, and looking at it in the form of the minutes makes me realize I probably should have announced the vote a little bit different. But the listed number of council members is 4, and I recorded the votes 3-0 because I wasn't voting in favor of, since I was chair, and it's, from what I've read, generally considered bad practice for the chair to vote. I recorded it as 3-0. However, or I announced it as 3-0. It probably would have been more appropriate to announce it as 3-0-1 because I was technically abstaining. I was present. Otherwise, a person could raise the question, why were there 4 council members present and yet
But the pro tem has a vote.
Yeah.
it does.
You don't
but
have to not, you don't
I
have to
don't,
abstain.
correct, I don't have to. But I believed it was in the
So I would
absence
do a
of a
301
contestant.
then, you're right. I would,
Yeah.
Okay, I will note that.
I'm just
change.
also noting with that Jerry noted it in the meeting minutes as I said it. I should have said it differently.
Okay, we can take
How
care of
does
that.
it get to be 301 with 3 council members present?
There was 4.
There's Justin was the only absent one,
Oh, that,
and I was absent, so he chaired the meeting. Okay, I'll put a note, change votes. So I guess if you guys are happy with everything else, knowing that those votes will be changed to 3-0-1.
so for the adjournment, you're gonna abstain from adjourning too?
Mm-hmm. Didn't change the outcome.
I know, but I would just say that's not a, you don't have to do that, so.
Correct.
Okay, any more discussion?
Call the question.
Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving July 14th, 2021 meeting minutes as corrected, signify by saying aye.
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 Alright.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Okay. Motion passes 4-0-1. Thank you guys.
Mhm.
And thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
Okay. Mayor update. Pretty good list under there, but hopefully we can get through it. Public Works hours is the first item, bullet item under there. Devin and Derek both approached me a little while ago about, so we allowed Devin to work different hours. Our city hours are 8 to 5, and we allowed him to work some different hours when we hired him as part of his employment. They've since then approached me to ask if we would be willing to allow them to work out a 4-10 schedule. We would have to prove that. I thought they were going to drop the schedule off because I knew we'd want to see something in writing. But as of now, since we don't have that schedule in front of us, what is your guys' thoughts on that? The coverage would be still 5 days a week. They would have to work. So I said I don't want to only run 4 days a week and not have somebody here. That's not, in my opinion, that's not fair to the clerk or to really any of us just to not have 1 day coverage. So they were willing to make it work where there was at least one person here all 5 days of the week.
Okay.
8 to 5 the whole time.
So in theory, one of them working Monday through Thursday, and the other one working
Yeah,
Tuesday through
and
Friday.
I talked to them about it, but to be honest with you, I don't remember exactly what their schedule was that they had brought up to me, just because I don't have it in front of me. But I still want to talk about it and see, kind of get a straw poll on what you guys think on doing something like that. Whether it's, well, our hours are 8 to 5, and that's what we're going to do, or we'd like to work with them. And
Would this be a seasonal thing, like the county and state?
no, I didn't bring that part up. I did not.
They would.
I definitely do that at work.
Sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to talk over you. They would be on call though for, say, a pipe broke on a Friday and neither of them were here. I'm trying.
There
to,
would be somebody here.
Yes, that was my only concern was if they were both working the same 4 days, somebody would have to be on call.
No, they would. The city would never go without
Good.
one person
Yeah, I don't
Monday
have a
through
problem with
Friday, 8 to 5 o'clock.
Don't have a problem with that.
That's only 9 hours though, right? I mean, so they're gonna have to switch it from like
Or-
7 to,
Sure, it
7
could
to
be a
5.
longer day. The hours, but for as far as covering our
In that slot, there would
public
always
hours,
be somebody
sure.
here. Okay.
my only concern too from previous times was when we only had one person. If something went wrong, then nothing could get done.
Right,
I don't know if that's a function of the position or the function of the people.
right.
So that's my only concern.
You're talking emergency kind of situations where something goes awry.
Well, there was a lot of
and-
times, yeah, when I'm thinking back to like Keith, even before when he wasn't here, a lot of stuff just didn't get done because there was only one person here.
Sure.
So if one of those people can do that stuff,
And I think my opinion of it would be to have them schedule that where those things that they do currently and are going to continue to do by themselves, whatever, the testing or whatever, where they already split up during the day, is maybe to schedule those things for if it's available and you can do that, to schedule that for the day or those hours that they're there by themselves. But as far as emergency stuff,
And that would also be predicated to, especially in the winter, on conditions. Because if we needed both of them
sure,
plowing
absolutely.
there, yeah.
Yep.
I think, well, you might talk to them. I think the county and state schedule that runs out in the summer or the spring,
Yeah.
that's actually might not be consistent with that,
Right, and we could do something like that. Like I said, I was hoping to have that on paper in
Okay.
front of us, but we don't.
Is there
so.
ever a time that somebody, well, there is no clerk, no mayor, that they're by themselves? Was there issues or concerns about that?
Concerns? I don't have any.
Like if they get hurt
gonna
or
mention the
anything
same.
like that?
I'm not sure.
That's
I-
why we pay for cell phones.
And I don't think that would. I mean, on a normal schedule, that wouldn't. On the days that are longer, I would propose them starting earlier rather than being here after the clerk is gone. So yes, I guess there still could be a time in the day where they were here by themselves.
I'm not sure I warm up to this idea so readily.
What are your
There's
concerns?
a synergy having two people on duty at the same time. They have to lift a lawnmower into a truck. One person can't do it.
Sure.
And I'm gonna have to look at what they propose very closely before I accept it.
Sure. Yeah, and I wanna have that down on a piece of paper so we're not just shooting off the hip. I wanna have something that you guys can look at. So I will get that from them and get it to you guys.
Well, the concern, or just something to look at, is from a standpoint, how does it benefit the city? Is it mainly a personal employee wish, or does it really benefit the city?
I don't know that it directly benefits the city. I think from
it
my
just does it automatically.
experience of where I work, just maybe a little bit of morale. I mean, it's just having that enjoyable work schedule, I guess.
My 2 cents with it is I wouldn't even care if they were both gone on the same day. They can go to 410s for my money with it because, as I said on the email, in regards to additional financial considerations, we've gone as far as we can go, in my opinion, as far as compensation. If this is a little bit of non-monetary compensation that we can give them in order to have the right people such that when they are working, they're doing a higher level of work, maybe having public works employees 5 days a week is no longer a luxury Harrington can afford. Work will still get done on the other days. So the fact that they can even offset it so that at least one person's here, I'd rather have a higher quality of work and give them throw them the bones we can throw them, because this isn't going to cost us anything
Right.
except for some bad PR perhaps. So
Or if it's on a Friday afternoon or a Friday morning and there's either it's in the winter and no one plows, or there's a line break and there's water shooting out or sewage till Sunday or till Monday, that I think that is a problem. It's not even a PR problem. That's a problem. So
the those are two different scenarios. The emergency braking, I mean, the thought of that braking just during a day versus at 5:01 p.m., we're going to be in the position in a lot of situations of having to do after-hours callbacks, especially with the provision of our new handbook and not having people engaged to be waiting or waiting to be engaged. So I don't know if you can really time the benefit of off-hours things, that if they're going to come, they're going to come either way.
it
Second,
could be 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, though.
it could, but it could not.
Right.
And I don't necessarily
It's
know.
snow plow on a Friday morning in the winter to have no plowing done for 3 days. Again, I think is
Yeah, but
unacceptable.
You're,
Well-
you're talking about the
If
to
they were
have both
both
of them
off
off
the
the
same
same
day.
day. Yeah.
Or even one, I mean,
Well, if one of
You
them's
You know,
here,
it might, yeah, but don't talk about that as if it's in a vacuum. We're already at the point where there's been some discussion as to whether we're paying employees adequately. We need to be looking at non-monetary forms of compensation if we're going to try and keep employees that are at a higher level. Maybe Harrington can't afford, like, you want to go to the people with rate increases to try and keep morale up enough for people to stay at the current rates? Is it worth that much money to potentially have to do that next year to give them a rate increase because we can plow 5 days a week?
there's a cost of doing business, so
Well-
we just we'll have to agree to disagree, I guess. But
well, I
That's
mean,
fine.
even the clerk, Jerry, so you wanna go 410s, I mean, how far do we take this?
No, he does not.
I'm just
burnt out
one
by
person.
noon.
You know, look at all angles, do we do it on a trial basis, or is it kinda seasonal during the, from what daylight savings time switch and standard? Like,
That would be my opinion as far as coming up with the plowing. I mean, I'm not saying that you couldn't have some issues arise, obviously, the rest of the year, but to do something like that, and obviously we're going to have something, that schedule is going to have to be nailed down very,
Plowing is the one issue though that keeps coming up here, and if I recall, our city employees have plowed on Saturdays and Sundays before when they've had to as well if the weather has been bad.
Sure.
Mm.
So that's not necessarily a
Mm.
buy your hours type of deal. I mean, if they both had Friday off and we had a huge snowstorm, they'd have to come down here and plow. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. Just like if we got dumped on a Sunday and Scott had to come in and work.
yeah.
But you would, I think you do run into some overtime issues, more overtime, more out of the pocket, 410s.
It depends. With the handbook changes that we discussed, we were thinking about overtime in terms of the total number of hours per week and not per day. So if you are in a snowstorm projected, my recommendation to the mayor would be to reduce their hours earlier in the week so that we would avoid paying overtime later in the week.
yeah, the state law is it's 40 hours a week. It's not per day.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a Washington state law thing. So you
So
know,
I'm saying you can avoid the overtime hours if it's scheduled properly.
Sure. Okay.
But they're also hours per day too.
It's
No.
8 hours or 40.
it's 40 a week.
But, I mean,
Because we had I had to look it up. I mean, I looked it up when I was the mayor because we had the issue come up a few times.
in the event, if you go over 12 hours, something like that, I mean, there's a limit on a CDL.
Scott didn't have a CDL.
I did.
I don't know.
Pretty sure. I would hope he did.
You didn't need one for some of our things. We were exempt apparently.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Well,
Did
it sounds
you-
like we definitely have more work to do on it, but
So,
I just wanted to present it.
Along the
just to get
same
you
lines, I
thinking.
should have added it, but I didn't. But we had some emails earlier, I guess last week, about the whole insurance thing. That it was like basically, if we didn't fix the insurance, they were quitting. Has that been resolved?
It's resolved as much as we can resolve it, I think.
Okay.
I mean, as far as
It just seemed like it. I don't know.
A deal
It's
breaker.
kind of the same thing with this out, like these non-compensation or non-compensatory benefits, but
Well, it's beyond the city clerk's capability to solve that problem.
okay.
I'm gonna need council help, and we're gonna need to talk to AWC and clarify what they're doing.
well, I mean, can we even do anything more as a city? I mean, we changed that last year. We have our what we're willing, what we pay our allowance for insurance. They get that allowance, and I mean, after that, it's up to the employee, correct?
Right. Well, the question is there other insurance companies or other options
Sure.
cheaper out there?
There
I
are,
have no idea.
there are.
So do we just use the insurance that we're using now because it was convenient or what we originally had? It's
Because we have we pay
like a
the
pool.
AWC. We're part
Right.
of the as a city we do that, and when you have a few employees, it's like individual insurance. It's really expensive stuff. We're part of a pool, so our rates, we're collectively, is it 239 cities or 281
281, yeah.
281 cities. All those cities that pool together, we're
Mhm.
part of that. So for
okay.
3
Yeah.
employees is what.
Okay.
But yeah, we can look at different places for us to purchase insurance through, and as well as employees too can do that. But
Do they have insurance coverage currently?
No,
I don't know.
The employee does, but the family doesn't, correct?
neither.
Neither has insurance coverage? I'd say that's,
That is a problem.
that is kind of, moves that up on the back burner.
Maybe it could be a topic at our next meeting.
Sure.
In 2 weeks,
2 weeks?
Yep.
just to get more information or whatever
Yeah.
is going
See what
on.
our options are. Okay. Second bullet, Memorial Hall refund. This is something that, this was around graduation time, so I'll tell you the backstory, but this is my fault that it's just now coming up. I forgot about it the first meeting we had after, and then I was gone the second one. We rented the Memorial Hall to a citizen for a graduation party. I got a call. They were setting up in the Memorial Hall for the graduation party the next day, and they were very concerned about the shape of the Memorial Hall as far as cleanliness. So I went down there, looked at it, and agreed it was not in good shape whatsoever. Had to have somebody come clean it that night before the party the next day, so that it was in good shape before that party. That citizen has asked me if we could talk about doing something,
A rental fee refund?
and that was my thought. I
What-
said I would propose a refund of the fees for renting the Memorial Hall.
But if you went and had it cleaned, then does it? If you had it cleaned before they used it,
Well, it was being cleaned as they were setting up, but yes, technically the party was the next day.
What do we have required right now? I know it has been years ago, but what does the city require for a renter to come in? I want to rent that. What is do we have a checklist and a guideline that, okay, you can use it, you pay your fee, and you're responsible for cleaning it up, but you just can't go in there and leave it all tore to smithereens?
Yes, there is a small checklist.
but didn't we pay somebody to clean the Memorial Hall as well?
Correct.
So that person wasn't doing it then. So it's not that we paid somebody every week.
It should have been cleaned both by the person who used it last and our city employee as well.
Well, the city employee, they do the final touches, like do the job and disinfecting.
Correct.
mop,
Yeah, that's
something like
what
that, but isn't the people that rented, the renters, they kind of police it and take care of it too?
They're supposed to, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's,
And then it's cleaned on a weekly basis, especially like COVID and stuff. But they go and wipe countertops, do the light cleaning on a weekly basis.
So I'm assuming this was in between the last rental and the time that they were scheduled to come in and clean. Does that make sense?
I think there was a larger gap between the last renter.
Okay,
I don't know that for sure.
okay.
who do we have now
So-
currently doing it?
Cleaning, Shelby.
Shelby's still
Yep.
doing it?
So what what were the problems with it?
There was confetti pieces and other paper items all over the big
Stage.
room. The kitchen countertops were not clean. A lot of grease. Some trash in the trash cans still, I think. Bathrooms hadn't.
That's city
Hadn't been
employee
cleaned.
cleaning though, isn't
It's
it?
both.
Yeah.
Regardless, as it should have been cleaned before. They got in there, they brought all their stuff to have a party in 12 hours, and they started setting up and going, this is not going to work.
And this was for graduate,
It was a graduation party were the people that were renting it at the time.
and said this is unacceptable.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
agreed with them.
Were they-
I got a call on my phone at home,
Okay.
went down there and looked at it because I thought, well, maybe this is just personal opinion. And
Does the city charge, I didn't look at this too much, but is there a fee for excessive, I mean, if you had a big shindig down there and you just left it,
Well,
Told
what are we
us a raise.
talking about? How much was the rental fee?
it was 70.
For the large one.
And you went and
How
had it. You went and
70.
and you went and had it clean though before. So they were
I had it
inconvenienced for a
cleaned
little
during
bit.
their setting while they
Yeah.
were setting up. Yep.
$70. I'm not in favor, but that's
Were they happy with the state of the cleaning after it happened?
Yeah, I think so. Sounded like it.
How long does it generally take to clean that on average?
Probably,
Half a day?
nah,
Hour?
I think,
I think?
2 to 3 hours.
yeah, 2-3 hours usually
So
what's
it's
on
more
the
than
time
just-
card.
Wave a magic wand at it, there's a little elbow grease involved. Now, is that the kitchen or just the hall itself?
Both.
But I thought we paid somebody to do that, right? The city has somebody that's supposed to do that.
Correct.
Was it the city employee that went in there and cleaned, or did we hire somebody else to come in and take
It was
care
a
of
city employee.
Okay, that came in and cleaned.
Yep.
So we weren't paying an extra person
No.
over the top,
no.
if that makes, yeah.
Shelby came in and cleaned
Okay.
right half hour later after I
Okay.
called. Well, I mean, what else do you guys? What's your guys' thoughts on? I mean, what? I feel like that's pretty unfair to somebody that rents it and they walk into a mess like that.
Did they lose any time? Any monetary,
No, I don't think anything monetarily.
like
Some
expect
time.
a caterer to show up and they come to set up and so they have to pay them extra?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
What
Is the, go ahead.
what condition did they leave it in when they were done?
Fantastic.
Okay.
I
Is the
was
city
also
approach-
called to come down and look at it then.
So was the city employee paid as if they had cleaned?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if it would be legal for us to do that, I would say that the amount of money that was paid to the employee for a job they didn't do should go to the refund of we should dock that pay, because services were not rendered.
Before we go there, though, as far as services, I'm not meaning to put my finger at you there. Is she paid? Does she clean on a schedule, or is she supposed to come in and clean after each event, or both?
Yes. Both.
Yes to, okay, both.
So was she
definitely after an
paid?
event.
Was she paid to clean after the event prior? That's what I'm wondering. I mean,
Maybe she is paid to clean on a schedule,
okay,
but after an event. So if you have it on a Saturday and she
Okay.
cleans Wednesdays, it gets cleaned. It
Right.
gets cleaned
see,
that
and that's
Wednesday.
what I was wondering was if there's an event, and then somebody else rents it, and she hasn't come in between to clean because it's not on her schedule. Is it a requirement that she cleans between each of those things?
Good point.
If
on
there's-
paper, I don't know that, but I
Okay.
would certainly
See,
think.
and that's what I'm wondering if that has ever even
If she's
been an
aware
issue
of it.
prior to now.
I doubt we have a job
Okay,
description.
and I realize
that
I'm throwing
explains
questions
that.
at you.
No.
You're-
But
I-
the last time, the time gap between those was probably greater than a week.
I'm almost positive
see,
of that.
so
yes.
okay,
It's more, yeah.
Do you know what was prior in there before the ceremony?
We'd have to look.
I thought it was
don't.
Kathy Ed Matthews' service.
A funeral or something?
And if it's supposed to be cleaned every
Maybe.
week, and there were multiple weeks of difference, then there were multiple weeks that it was missed.
Correct.
And it'd be one thing, I guess, if she didn't mark down the time because she didn't do it, but if we paid her for a job that didn't get done, assuming there are no legal restrictions on it, I have no problem with the concept of docking her the
Or
pay
with-
that she was not
And
due for services not
compensating the
rendered.
people that
Or withholding?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that-
As far as the refund strictly to the people, if the event was not impacted, I wouldn't refund all of it. But I do think that if we want citizens of Harrington to reliably be able to trust that the facility is in good condition, there should be some remuneration for the fact that it was not in the condition it was supposed to be when they entered it. There is a level of, all of us, I think, if we entered it in that state, would be a bit upset with it. So I would consider somewhere in 10 to 20% range, because I think it was cleaned by the time of the event, and that's the main thing. But I do think it's recognizing the fact that we expect the facility to be clean when they walk in there as well.
The 10% is $7 or $14. I mean,
It's
that's
all a trivial amount, but at least it
Yeah.
recognizes our responsibility.
Was there multiple people or was it just one individual renting it?
They
Was it-
complained, you mean?
Just I believe just
it's a
one.
family, right? I mean, it was,
Yeah.
it was
Maybe
parents.
just one.
They're not citizens of Harrington. I mean, they're county residents, but
Yeah.
Harrington community.
Okay. Well, I'll figure something out, I guess. But
I mean, I think the fact that you got it cleaned ahead of time It didn't.
It was cleaned, not ahead of time.
No,
It was
before-
as they
before their-
set up.
It was cleaned
in there.
before their actual party.
Okay, here's my question. This one last thing, and then I'll let it go. Did they have it rented the day they were setting up?
That's a good point.
Like
Or-
they'd already reserved it.
What my question is,
Money
did they
change.
rent it for the day of graduation and they came in the day before, or did they rent it for the day they started setting up as well as the day of graduation?
I don't know that, but probably had
Okay.
it rented. Probably were setting up the day before they had
Okay.
it rented. I would guess.
Therein lies
yeah.
my question,
Mhm.
because if they were not actually paying to be in the building the day they were setting up, they shouldn't get anything because they were not even paying to be in the
That's a
building
very
that day.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. And I don't know that. I'd have to.
$70 is a 1 day rental fee or a one.
Yeah.
So if it was just a $70 fee, then
Yep.
And you don't recollect which
I
it
don't
was?
for sure. Not to say for sure.
It's true. It might feel like a bit of a technicality, but contractually, we're
Okay.
obligated to the day that.
Because yeah, if they were in the
Yeah.
building on a day that they were not paying for, it's a moot point.
It's true.
and you bent over backwards to get it cleaned.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
True point.
I do agree with their frustration, but at the same
They
time,
still
on
were
that
able to use
technicality-
the, they ate the steak,
right.
they got
If it was clean on the day they had it rented, I'm
Now, the only way I'd say, in all fairness, the only way I'd reimburse them is if they had to go call a cleaner and pay for somebody to come in and clean it.
Yeah. Which they didn't. I mean, it was brought to my attention. I dealt with it, but
and I
Okay.
do understand their frustration.
sure.
I really do, walking into something like that. But on
That's
that-
what I was asking, were they harmed in
Right.
any way on it?
The renter ended up using
coming
the
from a
facility.
janitor.
Yes.
I really do understand.
Yep. Yeah, it was all taken care of, and they used it.
Graduation wasn't canceled. And,
Okay, I'll keep trucking. GIS Consortium membership renewal.
what about the volunteer? Thank you.
Oh. Obviously, I can't read very well either. So this was something that I wanted to address at the last meeting. Obviously, I wasn't here. Quick. Should be quick, but I wanted to just officially thank everybody in the community, anyone who volunteered and helped us out while we were in our state of no employees here. There's a lot of people that stepped up to help in different ways. I have a quick list of people that I know for sure helped, and there's probably more, but I wanted to thank them and read their names off. Jim and Vicky Knapp, Tim Campow, Justin and Heather Slack, Peggy Charlton, Linda Wagner, Bunny Haugen, Jess and Cynthia Silhan, Janice Cepeda, Mike Herron, Tammy Putney, and I just put here others that I did not mention or that I missed. So I just wanted to throw that in there and thank everybody. We had people holding up light poles in windstorms, people watering flowers, people cleaning bathrooms, all kinds of stuff. So I appreciate that. That was an interesting time, not having any employees here to do the small stuff. So thank you to all those people. Now we will move on to the GIS Consortium. David, I think I emailed back, you had a question of how much it was and what it was for, and I think I emailed the council that. This is something that we, if I'm not mistaken, we can still cancel. Our end of our year is actually, I think, in September. They just automatically renew this. They don't hear from us beforehand. So I wanted to check with you guys, what going forward, whether do we need this? Do we want to continue this service? Do we have ideas for projects that we want to stay in this consortium for, or what your guys' full thoughts are?
Isn't the cemetery one of those things?
Correct. Yep.
And it still needs to be mapped, correct?
Yes.
Does this mapping relate to the recent cemetery
Mishap?
issues?
Yes, because I think that it would be, the chance of anything happening would be drastically reduced once it's mapped. It would be easier to
Prevent such
obtain
a-
information and make sure that it's correct.
Can we pay for the GIS membership out of cemetery funds?
We do.
It's split. Some of it's,
Since
Well,
it,
last time I think we used a little bit of everything.
and it's split for 21 as well.
Okay.
since
That could be changed.
this would be the primary recipient, I'd say let's keep it for another year. It's since the cemetery fund has always been rather large, and we just had a more notable kerfuffle on it. I don't think this would be the appropriate time to.
Well,
ignore
but
the-
hence, this is for 2022, so we have 2021 paid for.
Oh,
So we need to obviously use those consulting hours and those services that we paid for, but
Right.
this would be a renewal.
are we gonna be able to finish the cemetery this year?
It's a question that I don't have an answer to.
In a month.
Yeah, I think though we can still,
Go
if we
through
have
the-
leftover consulting hours, we can
calendar.
drag that. Yeah,
What
But-
exactly, how much is it?
6,700. So yeah,
For a
I
year.
think what it was 6,500 was the membership, and then there was a $200
Admin fee.
annual fee.
And they do all that, there's no other hidden fees or tacked on additional
Not
fees?
for those
after that?
40 consulting hours, correct?
40,
No.
So that's a set amount of hours, so you can
Okay.
go over it, and if you're part of the consortium, then if you go over, you get a discount on those hours, but
Okay.
you don't, you can stop it whenever you want, I mean, so you don't have to go, if you run out at 40 hours and you wanna stop, then they'll tell you, they've been very good
And
about
to that point, the only thing that I would caution is, say, the cemetery project got to 40 hours and we weren't completed, and we had decided to cancel and not be part of the membership next year. Could we as a city do it ourselves? Finish it, maybe, maybe not. Could we pay just an amount? Say we needed another 10 hours, and we just paid that outright. We could do that
But
too.
does that have to happen before September or before December? Is it tied? Is the renewal the same definition of a year as the calendar year, or does it just
Just
renew
the-
in September for the next calendar year?
Just for the renewal year, so we can have them work after September on 2021's money.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm hearing here, I would say that we should let our membership lapse, pay any additional hours to make sure that the cemetery work is completed, and just close that out.
And I don't know
Oh,
for
okay.
sure that project can or will be completed within those 40
No,
consulting
but
hours.
you were
I-
saying that we did get a discount on additional hours, and if we only need an additional 10, I'm guessing we're not gonna pay another 6,700 for 10 hours. We'll
For-
pay
for-
something
for-
significant.
I don't know what that rate is, but I would.
The other thing I would say though too, on the flip side is, so they came out and trained Scott and showed him those things, and that never got utilized and never got carried over. So Nathan mentioned earlier the smartphones that these guys have. We're supposed to, because those both have GIS, the app on their phone, because you can
Yeah.
take pictures of things, and so we might need to use some of those extra hours for, and I don't know if there's a different rate or not, but
training type thing.
to help those two guys. I mean, because it's a great tool box if you use it. The things that come out of it, but if they don't know how to use it, then it's not very helpful. So,
So what exactly what are they actually doing? Just, it's a mapping, right?
They're creating a online electronic GIS
Digital map?
digital mapping system. So like the stuff that Justin had done was the infrastructure, the water and the sewer, the utilities.
That's
So
all
they
done?
came out and mapped that stuff. It's all into a software or program that then we can access, we can edit, we can do anything with. The same thing would be with the cemetery.
We did the entire town?
Yes.
And that's done complete, right?
Yep.
And then cemetery, again, how much have they done of it? No,
Zero.
zero.
They're waiting on us.
Oh,
but there's also a membership to ArcGIS included in that.
True.
So if we don't pay for the consortium, we have to pay for ArcGIS on our own,
Yeah.
which is pretty expensive.
what, do you have a,
It might have been $2,000 or a couple $1,000s because of the licenses. Because you have
RCIF is what?
ArcGIS. It's a ARC GIS is the software that like all the counties and city, a lot of these guys use when you go online and want to look at a parcel map and you can map it out. And so they've done that with our infrastructure, and then like you can take picture. One of the cool things was when they replaced something, because we didn't have records of when we replaced things. You can take a picture with your phone of, like, you put in a new 6-inch line, you take a picture of it down in the hole,
Yeah, mark
and then
it.
you update it on our system, so we know that on August, 12th, 2021, we just replaced this. And then that way we have a digital record. So that's part of that cost.
And it's tied to the map. I mean, those are things you can click on, and fire hydrants.
Fire hydrant.
I remember, oh, you weren't on board with this yet, but Justin showed us originally when I was on the council the I don't know, the meat and potatoes of the program. He had it on the computer and just showed it. It was
Yeah,
a
I've seen it
photo
on the computer.
of the
So-
screen.
Just to be clear, make sure I'm understanding this correctly, we're paying public funds to update a private mapping software that we then have to pay to get access to?
That's a good question.
It's ours.
I mean, every year have to pay a fee to get, do we have to pay a fee to use this? If we say
If we have to
every
pay
year for 5 years, 10 years, I mean, every year,
The software, like if we didn't go through the consortium, we just have to get our own licenses for ArcGIS.
for the program that runs it.
I don't know if if it's a subscription base or I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that either.
Yeah, we just agreed. We just signed up with again, it's just through
Yes.
AWC, and they have the
Right.
consortium is all these cities, so they get a discount for cities like ours.
I was under the impression that we were paying to contribute to something that was open access. The fact that we're paying something that we can then be held hostage
We're
to.
paying for the services of them to create that, so that we're
Yes,
able
but
to
then
use
we
it.
don't really own access to it.
See,
that
We
was
have to
my
really
question.
Continue to have access.
If
to it.
subscription, right?
If we canceled our subscription to all this, we would not have access to the information.
Right.
That's
which
my,
is-
it's a question, not
I
a
will-
statement.
Ask that exact question to
Bizarre.
make sure that it's clear.
Okay.
Again, I don't want to say something for sure that I don't know.
Okay.
I will get in contact with Eric and the third party, Flow Analytics is the company that does it, and ask them some of these questions that we've had to make sure I can answer them correctly. Code enforcement fines and fees, we can strike that. Is that correct, David?
I would at this time, yes.
City parcel list and discussion. So did everybody get the email that had the Excel spreadsheet that David and I had made regarding city properties?
This was a while back, right?
Yeah, it wasn't just in the last couple of days.
It was the last couple days.
No, it wasn't in the last couple of days.
I
What's
have
the
it.
title
I just
of
need
it?
to figure out where it is again.
Do you remember the title?
I don't. I think the document was named City Parcel Sale List.
David forwarded it on 7/14. Well,
Okay, right
to
there.
Peter, Levi, and
I
myself.
s-
Yep,
I sent
David
it on the
Butters
5th.
city parcel surplus list.
Yep.
Not
I have it as
sure why
7/14/21.
Justin wasn't on it, but
I don't have it.
Did I send you one separate? 'Cause
I'll forward it to you, Justin.
I don't have it either.
I'll
Was that
put
at
it
the
to the
last
top
meeting?
of your inbox, Peter.
my apologies. Anybody?
I thought I sent it out to everybody.
I thought so too. I'm trying to find it.
Because you wouldn't have got it without.
Did it
All
come
right,
out to you now?
I just forwarded it to Justin and Peter.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen.
I'll look at yours because it still hasn't come. So
Okay.
that's fine.
You can do with it what you will.
That's fine.
The date of the email was
No,
7/14.
it's gonna. Stephen just forwarded it to you and me. It just came in
You're
just
on
now.
the outs.
Who needs a paper copy? You good, Dave? You got it?
Okay, thanks.
Either of you guys need. Okay.
I'm good, thank you, Jerry.
Do we need to table this then? If we have guys, I didn't realize that we had a couple of you that hadn't seen it. I wanted to see if you had any
It's
questions
fine.
on the.
I do.
We discussed it at length in the last meeting.
So the ecology park, I think that's the city entered an agreement with Department of Ecology in lieu of a fine to create that. So I think there would be some ramifications.
What is it? I mean, I know where it is, but what?
Was it in lieu of wetlands or?
No, well,
displacement?
I don't, again, it was before
your
my time.
Yeah.
I just know that the city was gonna be fined like $10,000, and so Paul said we would set this aside to be,
Well, if you destroy wetland or take wetland out, there was a time that you could replace it, create another.
like a land
was
bank or
it.
something. Yeah, I don't know what, again, I just know that there was an agreement with the Department of Ecology and the state. So I think that we,
Where exactly is this?
right behind the tennis,
But
or behind the high school.
in
Oh,
in
okay. I know
between-
exactly where Becky Muller used to pasture horses down there between Scott's house and Mark Gossett's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Question, why is the second line blank?
Underneath Fourth and Alice, the property, there's no address.
No,
description.
that's actually, did we ever address?
Is that
Eric?
Eric Timms?
That's
Yeah.
the one on the
No,
bottom. I
that's the
thought.
one highlighted.
Okay,
There's just a gap then.
okay, where?
No, it's-
It's got a parcel
Probably
number, I know.
because I couldn't describe it, but that doesn't help you guys, so I'll get a description in there and resend it. So we need to look at Ecology Park then, an agreement, or potential agreement there.
Now, was there
The
two,
deer like it.
you'd mentioned something over there by, well, Ralph Barbary, I don't know if you guys remember. Across from the, north of the trailer park, there was something the city owns in there. Was that
yeah.
another ecology?
No, those are swales. That's a
208?
storm drainage from Second Street.
Okay.
Yeah, they
So-
wanted us to put in green spaces, swales between the sidewalk and the street, all along that street by Creighton Ostrich's place.
Okay.
And the citizens up
Did
there,
not like it.
yeah, they made their
half
voices
the side
heard.
didn't like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
But-
so we,
Yeah, they couldn't. We did also. We were supposed to pipe it down, and the option that was an alternative was to be able to pipe it only to there instead of all the way, either all the way. If they weren't going to do it up on Second Street, it was going to have to go down to our storm treatment plant.
Okay.
Or what?
So yeah, that's a water catch for.
we sent it that direction.
Are the, yeah, the ecology park, I think it's probably similar to what we just talked about, that if you displace wetland, you have to.
It was a fine thing. It was a Paul, say horse traded or something. I don't. Again, it was.
That's usually what it ends up happening, you know, and I think if you look back, does it ring a bell about in, late nineties, early 2000s?
Oh, I don't know when it was. I just know it was. Well, he was the mayor from seven, and there was a gap when he wasn't the mayor. But Bunny would know, or ecology, or there might be documents here.
That would have been the late 90s when that happened.
I'll check
Because
into it. I'll
when
see
they
if
did
I
the
can
sewer
find out.
project, there were springs and there was a pond and,
Right.
wetlands
Yeah, I remember
down
that.
there, so, and that's gone now, so that makes perfect sense to me,
We used to mess
You
around down
could
there when we were
displace it.
kids.
make it a different one.
What's the?
Is everybody familiar with the Lincoln County map sifter?
I'm on there right now.
Okay. Peter, have you seen that?
No,
That's like
Yeah,
ArcGIS.
Yeah.
Lincoln County map what?
Map
Sifter.
sifter. So there's a program that you can go to Lincoln County website and search and look at all the properties within Lincoln County.
Well, it's a tax
Um,
sifter, but it goes to the maps. That's
Yeah.
when you get in.
Yep. It highlights the boundaries of them. Of course, they're not right on point exactly, but you can look at all these by parcel number, who owns it, where the boundaries
Yes,
are.
I have used it.
Okay.
Scott Leland demonstrated it to me.
Yes. So that's a good, very good tool if you guys have any further questions. That's why I wanted to keep these parcel numbers in there. If you guys have a question on one of them, you can look at it on that or look at it physically as well. But I just want to make sure that everybody was on board, had seen that or used it.
What's the Eric Tim residence? Why is it highlighted?
Because it shows the city owning this place.
That parcel number, and when you click on it and everything on Map Sifter, it's correct, but it says City of Harrington.
Where Reith, that's a Reith owns it. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jim Wilcox in one of the meetings, the resident Jim was
Mhm.
here. He knew all about it because I used to, there's a relative of his. He said there is something about that. So
I have to track
don't have
that
any
down, so
idea.
that's on me. But we were just really confused why that was listed as owned by the City of Harrington, and then when you punched in that parcel number, it took Bob and Gwen Reith's old
Yeah.
place and
The only question
Where is
I
it
have-
located? On the
corner of
golf course?
Sherlock and
First.
First.
Street.
Right up.
Right
Right.
across, kitty corner from the school.
Yeah, right across from the park. That house that the sidewalk angles up toward the park,
The
from the
west end of
railroad
the
tracks.
park.
And
We had to
there's,
cut the trees down,
yeah,
or we had to have some trees cut there a few years
Yeah.
ago after
Yeah.
somebody
Which
else.
part?
The city park.
City Park. If you're coming down the
Up
hill,
here.
yeah, coming down the hill from your place, you take a left onto what is Highway 28 past
Yeah.
the school. As soon as you make that left-hand turn, that house on the corner right there is that house.
23.
Yeah,
Highway
23. Did I say
23?
28?
Yeah.
23.
That's recorded.
Yeah, you're way down there.
That's recorded as the city of Harrington property, so we have to. I have to do a little research there and figure out what's going on. But you guys see anything else that stands out, or any changing anything? The ones that we went through and have surplus on right now. I mean, is there something to say, hey, we don't want to get rid of that for a reason, or vice versa? Obviously, there's some of these are. As you look at them, you'll see why they're kept. Some of these are attached to the city shop. Some of them, I mean,
The
there's
gravel pit back there,
just, sure,
the sewer
Yeah.
lagoons.
stuff that we obviously wouldn't want to get rid of, but there are some that, in my opinion and David's opinion, can go away.
I would just like to address the council is, I think I mentioned it last time, some of us weren't here, is that when we look at this, in my mind, that you take a look at each one and find out the pros and cons to owning it. You can also, I mean, how does it benefit the city,
Mm-hmm.
or what's the negative impact of it? Now, you'll give some thought, you'll look at the areas, and you'll see it. It's
Mhm.
quite, the responsibilities, I mean, just to say the city owns land, and it never could do nothing with it, and it abuts up to other people's residents and land, they'd probably, possibly buy it. Where it doesn't, I mean, we're talking like little slivers and, stuff like that. And that just adds to our tax base more.
Mm-hmm.
But, we have the upkeep of it, we can't keep track of what we have now, it seems like, we're behind the 8 ball, so.
What one is that?
The unnamed one.
Is that across the highway?
Here.
You might just
Fix it.
screw
Fix
up.
it.
Doesn't take long, it's very sensitive, and once you just have to start over on that tax after.
Yeah, I touched the mouse pad when I touched that.
So other than, obviously, we have a couple, the Ecology Park is questionable, the Air Cam Residence is questionable.
I'm trying to get back there. It's,
Any of the ones that we currently have listed here as potential surplus, does anyone have
I
any
can take you back.
objections to
I was
getting
trying
rid of
find
those
it.
parcels?
There's one, I think, did we touch on it, the Triangle Park at 3rd and Sherlock, right at the end of the street up here? You have a question mark on that. I'm not sure, so everybody's aware of what,
That right there.
I think Steven's on board, knows where it is, and.
Yep. The state shed, same thing.
Here, Peter, this is just, so here's the
The
school.
discussion
Here's
at the
first.
end of the last meeting was
South
left
and
as a
north.
question of how
South
much
corner.
overhead is involved in the sale of each
It's
property,
listed as city property.
and whether it would be better to list
It's a
them
house,
together.
Yeah.
Because if
That's
the
where the
overhead
timber's
is
at.
low, I think we should go property by property from our most saleable to our least.
Okay.
But Jim was bringing up from his experience selling a county property that we might have to list things for bid and what have you, in which case it might be better to list multiple properties at once.
I think we have the
So-
choice of how we want to sell it. Just like the fire truck, surplus real
Perhaps,
property.
but I guess what I'm saying is if you have 3 hours of overhead and $100 or $200 of advertising cost per property, and you can combine them, then we might want to figure out what our best grouping is to go forward with.
Sure.
But if it's all about the same, then I think we should just take it property by property and see how far we get, instead of trying to figure out is the whole list acceptable or not.
Well, I think though too, like David said, if it abuts a part, the one that says west of tennis courts, somebody over there that's abutting might want that one, but they're not the same person wants the triangle properties behind Highline Green.
Yeah.
Highline Green might want, so I think that's something to consider, but.
Okay.
In my opinion, you'll have to go by parcel by parcel.
Well, right, no, I'm talking
Multiples.
about like advertising them as surplus together and buying one ad in the paper as separate bids options instead of,
So stating
Fine.
these
An ad,
properties
and then
are,
an
Well,
ad,
sure.
okay.
Well,
and an ad.
couldn't you just list them, multiple properties, see the list at Harrington?
You could, I'm just saying that
Is that what
it
you're-
depends, like, we could get caught up in trying to define exactly what the whole list is we wanna list at once. And I'm saying for the sake of making sure we can move quicker, if the overhead of doing one property or two properties at a time is low, then we shouldn't get caught up on whether the whole list is acceptable. We can just say, council,
okay.
do we agree that these two properties we don't need? And as soon as we get that agreement, we should move forward on those and move until we can't agree anymore.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now.
So there's 10, 11, so that's. So 2 a month?
Well, is this something that we need to send, a special meeting or sit back off record or whatever and after hours and look and say?
I think we have a lot of
all
work to
agreed?
do on it. I think I think it's right that I do some legwork as far as costs of a realtor, maybe, or however we need to sell it.
I know
How we can sell it? Can we choose one way, or do we have to sell it a certain way? I think I should do all that legwork first. But yes, I think we're still gonna have.
I think City of Spring, Davenport, I know, they just did some stuff here this year, this year timeframe.
Yep.
But I'm not sure, it was just in the paper.
So I can find out how to sell them and maybe some costs associated with it, and then maybe the next meeting, or if we want to
Cause the other
budget
thing is,
workshop.
the other thing that we had talked about is perhaps having a public hearing before selling it so that there could be an objection from the public.
And it may be required.
If we did that, it would be better to have a public hearing on a less number of properties than a whole big one at once, or else that could be its own
You'd have a
mess.
very crowded room.
Yeah, I'd
good.
rather have
We
a
need more
public
people in
hearing
the
on
city
one or
hall.
two. Yeah.
Well, it's got the Memorial Hall, we can fill
Sure.
her up.
Have you approached the Art Team family yet?
No, I'll talk to the assessor. I don't think it has anything to. I mean, I can, but I'm sure the assessor will hopefully have an answer for me.
He's not even the owner, so
Yeah, I mean,
Reith, you probably talked to Reith before you talked to Eric Tim. Right?
I think they own it.
No, they rented from the Reiths.
Is that Rod's property or is it?
I thought,
Is
I
Gwenny's?
concur with Justin, I thought I just ran into it, I think the Reith family still
Okay.
owns it.
I don't know which Reith.
I don't know for
Okay.
100%.
I don't,
on that.
unless I need to talk to the
Rod.
person that's there.
I think you talked to the assessor though.
Yeah.
In fact, you could probably, if you still had it pulled up, you could probably get that, punch on there.
You're laying your head on the table.
I don't know.
Try that here.
Just making sure it's still going.
Should we set it, do you wanna set a time
Next council meeting.
that we go through this?
I think next council meeting we just approved to sell
Right. That's what I'm
X number of properties or whatever.
And to Stephen's point, if anybody has a concern,
Okay.
City light poles.
Is that what's next? That's what I'm trying to
That's
get
the
back
last
to.
thing.
My,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
And there's been
Um,
quite a few of them blinking here.
Yeah. So a few
Disco.
things.
Seizure warning.
I don't know why they're blinking. We went through that quite a bit before. I talked to the guy that was installing the pole by the hotel. I was going through town when he was here. I stopped and asked him. He said his opinion was pretty much if they're not working correctly, that means that the bulb's bad or something in those LED bulbs. So the blinking issue, I'm going to try to take care of, replace the bulb and see if that helps. My opinion is that doesn't help. Scott replaced quite a few before, and some of them do it still. Some of them do it intermittently. I know the two by my house for about 3 nights. I was like, oh, they fixed themselves. Fantastic. And now they're back to blinking. So that's something that I want to address with the public works guys. We'll try to get that fixed as soon as we can.
It's got to be a sensor issue, I think.
I don't think they have sensors though. I think they're on timers, right? Are they? Do they have eyes?
I'm pretty sure they gotta have eyes, cause they come on at
At
different times
dusk.
through the year.
Yeah.
I think we addressed this a couple of years ago or a year ago, that I believe there's an eye somewhere close to here, and that there's several eyes.
There should be
Photo
an
cells.
eye probably on every
I
fixture,
think it's
right?
in the fixture. I think my guess is well, at least my theory has always been that somehow the fixture sees its own light and keeps blinking on and off. Turns itself off, it goes, oh, it's dark, and then it turns it on and it sees its own light too much and it goes, oh, it's light, I should shut myself off, and it goes on and off and on and off.
We'll try to address it in-house first, obviously, just because of money, and then after that, if we have to have an electrician or somebody else, maybe somebody else that knows more about it can look at it. But I know one of them, it just happens. But I came in during harvest and there was like 6 of them, so looks like a disco party
Just
in
what you
town.
need. What do the replacement bulbs cost,
That's why
do you
I wear
know?
sunglasses driving around at night anymore.
And have we
30
kept a
bucks
record?
probably,
$30?
maybe.
Have
That's
we kept a record of when they've been replaced?
no.
Well, they're all relatively recent, right? Because we moved to LEDs within the last number of years.
Yeah,
None of them are
That's
more
correct.
than 4 years old, I don't
no,
think.
that's a
In
good
the lifespan
assumption.
of LEDs, there's way too many failures for this to be a bulb problem.
Yeah.
So
Unless
we
bought
want to
back
buy a
bulbs.
bucket truck so we can get up to them.
LEDs don't have a ballast.
Doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Halogens and stuff
No, we
do.
need one.
Can use that
Um,
as our transport to Spokane too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll try to get that taken care of. The big point that I want to bring up here is one, I had a letter submitted months ago, and then I never got to it. But there was a suggestion of maybe turning some of the Christmas lights that the Lions Club put up, turn them around so that they're over the sidewalk to try to keep from trucks hitting them. Justin and I spent an hour and a half holding light poles up in a windstorm so that the whole light pole didn't go over. Of just maybe getting to where we allow nothing to be on these light poles.
I think,
No extra weight, no decoration. So the backstory to that was the graduation photos. Those look pretty cool. I loved it. We're like,
It's a
yeah,
sale.
absolutely. It's fine. I love the idea, but it wreaked havoc. Justin was literally holding the light pole up.
As
there is,
So-
Nathan drove down the street.
there is,
stop.
there is codes regulating that. I know
Yeah.
like Washington Water Power, or Avista was really big on that, hanging banners and stuff,
Yeah.
because they're not rated for that. You wouldn't think
That's my
nothing of it.
question. I mean, I just, are we interested in maybe going that route? Because one, we've had problems with people just hitting them or them going down on them on their own. But then we get the trucks that catch the decorations, the weight of the decorations, the sales created by banners. Is this something that maybe we should look at and not allow anything on those light poles?
I
It's a
would,
light pole and that's it.
I would recommend that. No, nothing
I would too. As much as I mean, even being part of the Lions Club and like the decorations, I love the banners for graduation, but when it comes down to it, we've heard it. I mean, we don't need we have insurance, but we still end up paying a portion of those insurance claims.
I
So
think there might be a little bit of a middle ground, though, that if you could have the Christmas decorations turned over the sidewalk, that shouldn't be a problem, right? Because they don't cause a sale,
or weight,
right? But the weight's never been a problem if they haven't been caught, right?
we don't know that.
So those poles though were like this.
Ask the
you
manufacturer.
could push that
if
pole
they're
back and
rated
forth.
for anything.
Yeah.
It got
Are they fiberglass?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So was it the bolts coming loose then, or was it the pole itself being structurally?
it was the bolts on.
Both.
Oh yeah.
The
Okay.
the bolts, there's ready rod that comes out of the concrete that goes through holes in the fiberglass, and there's a washer and a big nut on it. And either A, those come loose from wind or whatever reason, and then I think that, like the one that we had open, I think that hole was actually the fiberglass was starting to disintegrate and tear out because
Okay.
it was loose. So it was
Okay.
rattling.
So it
and-
was reaming. It was
Yeah.
reaming it out.
Well, actually, you won't think about that. They have a vibration to them.
Mm-hmm.
You won't pick it up, but that's what over time deteriorates the mounting and everything. And I suggest that we contact the manufacturer and see if they're even rated for that, because there's liability to that. They do go down. And we're not talking about these. We're talking about, I mean, any luminaire, street light pole.
Yeah.
Even the big metal ones, they're not rated for it, and a lot of people get away with it and do it, but we take it on that.
And I don't
If we-
want to not. I don't want to get to the point to not allow anything on them, but I think just as a city standpoint, we paid a lot of money for light poles since I've been involved.
Yeah.
I've had 5 of them go down.
Yeah. So, and some of that is, I mean, some of the truck caught the decoration. That's nothing that.
So the decorations, do they, traditionally, it's been, they string them from building to building, but they've slowly,
These
they've
decorations just clamp.
yeah.
They just hang on the light pole itself.
But originally, didn't
They
they?
go
They weren't
across the
on,
street.
or were they on the corner posts out here? The wooden posts that Avista had the.
They're on buildings.
Street
The
lights,
ones that
they-
go that string across are on cable wires connected to buildings.
Okay.
Are they
Those
still-
don't have anything to do with the light
Still
poles.
gonna do those?
I think one of them, property owner said no. I think yeah. There's a couple I think that still go up. This one,
I think that's it. Memorial Hall.
yeah, that might
'Cause
be
I know
the
there
only
was,
one.
they were few and far between the last couple of years, and I just wondered what the deal was.
I think there was maybe originally 4. One came down. One the property owner said no. This one I think gets hung.
Might be 2. But yeah.
Or was the 4th one? But yes, it's just kind of slowly dissipated.
Well, several things too, you know, also, if you hang them over a sidewalk and stuff, there's gonna be height requirements, if you did that. But the main thing is if they'll even take them.
Well, maybe we talk about it too, because there's at a different time as it gets closer, but before probably October, November, so we can give them notice. But because the last few years they started wrapping the poles, and that looked really cool, and that was just
Yeah,
a
that
string
was cool.
that didn't. So maybe there's a compromise. We don't
Yeah.
allow these things to hang off of them. Nothing can hang off over, whether like the weight thing,
But you could run lights up the poles and
but
such.
you know,
like.
so we can do that. But we can as
Turn them into candy canes and be
a
fine.
committee or whatever, but not. I mean, just do it before October.
And I didn't aim to create.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
want
a
to
good
put us
idea.
through a bunch more work and have to create another 20-page document just on our light poles. But I think it was necessary. It's just Justin had a few go down, and then I've had more since I've been mayor, and it just made me think we maybe need to look at doing something different with them, whatever that is, whether it's compromise or it's just nothing on them or whatever,
We'll see if
just to
the,
take care of our property.
see if the manufacturer prohibits anything like that.
Yeah.
And if
Okay.
they don't, they say, no, it's fine, it's rated for this, and then it's a different matter, but.
And it's a matter of keeping
You're
bolts
gonna
tight.
contact the manufacturer then?
Yeah, that's a
Ask
good
them
idea.
about lock washers on the mounting points. See whether they recommend lock washers.
How long have we had those things here? Do you
That's the other
Did they
thing,
have
though.
lock washers? I
They
don't-
don't.
But that's the other thing though is going through those poles on a regular basis and making sure that you check them for tightness.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, torque them down again. And
Nathan has a custom wrench now, so he sacrificed a wrench. Cut it.
Crescent wrench. Okay. Memorial Hall custodian. We kind of talked a little bit about that. Jerry, do you want to
Well,
lighten us on that?
we have had sporadic cleaning in the Memorial Hall. And I talked to somebody recently that would be willing to clean Memorial Hall after each event, because they were looking for a sporadic part-time job, not, they already have a couple jobs, but
Okay.
they're already involved in Memorial Hall. So they were wondering if there was a possibility that they could be put on a payroll to do that after each event,
per event,
per event.
not on a steady diet or,
Right.
schedule. Just- I'm
Yeah.
not opposed to that.
At the
It's a-
same rate?
I would say the mayor can make that decision if.
Yeah.
And
if you
I was
choose.
also thinking, what about instituting a refundable cleaning fee? So that when somebody rents the hall, they put up $200 up front. We just set that aside. We check the hall after they're done. if it looks like they tidied up after themselves and didn't leave it a shamble, we just give them their check back.
Do we have a cleaning fee right now?
Not that
I'm not aware of it.
I don't believe we do. It was always
See, and that scares me too
Requested, but
because that's
never-
not the document that I saw. So there's, how many city hall
How about
contractual blanks are there?
a non-refund, you got the rental and a non-refundable
No,
cleaning
refundable.
fee? I know,
think
but a cleaning fee,
that's part of the,
that's
part of the $70.
So that $70 goes for the cleaning?
It goes for the utilities and it goes for cleaning. I mean, that's just the,
Is that, that suffices, or I mean, that's
those
sufficient?
rates got set 6 year, my first year on the council when Dylan was the mayor, those rates got reset.
Right.
And that was at the time, I don't know how it was derived, but I think a comparable rate of wanting to be able to have the people in the community use it. And then if you pay somebody minimum wage and it's so to say $15 an hour and it's 3 hours to clean afterwards, that's $45,
Yeah.
but they're paying 70. And then there's also some utility costs, the heater. I mean,
Electric bill. And
Yeah.
Has that been sufficient to cover everything, the 70?
I don't think you can.
so the
I don't know that
city's
we'd know
It's
that.
so sporadic. Lions Club rents it at a different rate. I mean, it's
Triple?
double or a third. The Lions Club is at
$600 a year.
Lions Club is at a different rate.
600.
Senior Meals was at a reduced rate.
Uh-huh.
So it was again a city service. City was supplementing some of those things.
So it's not really a source of revenue. It's just that we charge you to cover our costs so
We're
we can keep the
attempting-
building running.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
attempting to not cost us out of pocket money.
Right.
Yeah. And it was at that time it was pretty. The rates got raised quite a bit, and a lot of people were upset
Yeah.
because it'd been cheaper before.
Pretty good sized building for $70.
So
Full kitchen, commercial kitchen. I think
That's used for the kitchen too? 'Cause
there's
Yeah.
different rates. Well,
There's
there's different rates
different-
if you have the
There's
small
different
room.
rates, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't rent one without the other, and
Yeah, I don't think you could rent either of them without the kitchen anymore, can you?
Yeah,
Because people end
no.
up using the kitchen anyway.
that was the
If I
thing.
remember
Yes.
right, it's either you can do the kitchen in the small room or you can do the whole facility.
Right,
And the whole facility is how much? 70?
$70.
Yeah, it would be nice for the clerk to have a rate sheet.
Yeah.
There is a rate sheet somewhere. I don't know.
yeah, I
I
put
only
that.
found
I
one.
I put that one in your box. It's got it
Okay.
with the copies and faxes and all that. I think that has it on it. Should.
Yeah.
But generally, what's good, how many people use it in an average typical,
No
Typical.
idea.
I know on the budget we don't. It's a low number.
yeah.
I mean,
have
we used it one
three
time.
events
You
coming
did you used
up.
to do game night in there? Did you guys have game night for a while?
Three.
Like early on when Dylan was mayor?
Oh, Dylan did it a few times, yeah.
So there, I mean, but people wanted to use, it's a commercial kitchen. So it's a commercial grade kitchen. So
Right.
people, I mean, the health department checks it out. So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to it, but it doesn't get used very often. So in
Well,
a
and
budget,
that's the thing, is like if you want to do a game night for the community, it's a little bit hard to swallow. If you use the small room, I'm going to pick a number out of thin air. I don't know what the small room costs, but if the 40, okay, so if it's $40 a night for a game night, that ends up being a little bit difficult for anything that's nonprofit, you know. So you have to kind of strike somewhere in a little bit of a balance. Davenport's Memorial Hall is much higher quality than ours, so it's
Is
a little
it?
bit. Oh yeah.
They
Well,
redid
they
Much larger too.
Did they redo that? Or
They
no?
redid it.
Okay,
It has-
I haven't been in there.
full internet coverage, and all the floors were redone, and the walls, and the kitchen, and it's very nice.
What do
but
they charge? Like,
A lot more. Such that I know a lot of things went to the Lincoln County Fairgrounds because they didn't feel like they could afford the Memorial Hall.
As far as cleaning goes, do we want to have a person only clean after an event? Or do we think that it deserves or needs a regular scheduled cleaning regardless? Say nobody uses it for 2 months.
Well,
Do we need to-
considering the agenda item that we had a little while ago, I say it wouldn't be a bad thing.
I would,
if it's 2 months in between, I mean, if there's any,
time lapse.
So the challenge though too is, so I think Senior Meals is turning back on now,
Yep.
right? So that's gonna be coming on 3 days a week.
2.
2 days a week? Okay, 2 days a week. And then that's only the small room, I think, in the kitchen,
Yep.
but, yeah, I mean, if there's an event, like if somebody's renting it out for like a venue, right, like a funeral service or a wedding or a graduation, sure, but I still think, and that might be, maybe it's an hour a week of going down there and wiping it down, and that's what, I mean, when Cassandra did it, that's what, I mean, she had a schedule. She
Right.
was there, you making
And
sure
that's
that.
what we've attempted to follow is
Yeah.
going by that. It's just it gets a quick clean down regardless if there was anyone in there or not.
And that was on the schedule, and your proposal is this employee or this person's willing to do it after every event.
And the events are sporadic.
Yeah.
The only thought I would have for the mayor as he makes the decision that's within his purview is that at some point Shelby might consider a minimum number of hours she's looking for from her involvement with the city. We had already talked about taking meter reading away from her and giving it to Derek, so just keep in mind that at some point the other things that she might still be doing, she might not want to continue interaction if it's under a
Well,
minimum number.
we only need one cleaning person, and it's Shelby cleaning currently. We're gonna have a set schedule. It's either
I'm just saying if
one
this,
person. I'm
if
not
this
having two
person's
people
willing to clean
clean.
the memorial hall but not here and the other things that are cleaned, just realize that at some point if you take that portion away from Shelby, she might not want to stick around for the rest of everything that is not included in the memorial hall.
I don't think that the person that cleans the memorial hall gets a choice to not clean this. That
Okay.
cleaning job is a cleaning job. It's two
So then
buildings. It's very low hours.
I wouldn't frame it probably as the memorial hall custodian then, because the job, the amount of work we're talking goes beyond just the memorial hall.
Unless, I'm speaking out of turn there, and you guys think that would be okay, but, we're talking 5 hours a week maybe or something, maybe less. We
Right.
split that up and have somebody do that and somebody do the, I wouldn't think so. My opinion would be to have that same person do both.
Right now, if there's an event down there, Shelby works, say Thursdays or whatever day that they go do it, and there's an event, it would, nobody cleans up until a week later, currently.
I don't know that for sure. I think it's,
Or does she get called, has the city ever called her in and says, hey, they just had a big blowout, big Lions Club? Yeah,
I have not done that
coffee,
because of
get in here?
the nature that the person who used it is supposed to have cleaned it after they were done, that Shelby would just come in on her scheduled day. On her once a week cleaning.
I don't know if she's even cleaning it anymore.
Right, yeah, do we even know that?
Whoever cleans it should have to come in during the 8 to 5 sometime,
Right,
consistently, check in, say I'm going to clean the hall, and then I'll be back to clean City Hall, and then when they're done, check out and say I'm done.
That makes
That way
perfect
we can
sense.
monitor the
yeah,
hours.
but you can kind of police what's going on there a little
But they
bit.
should be fixed hours, say 2 to 4,
Yeah,
Monday through Friday, if that's what they're gonna work.
what, was she doing it every day? It was just one day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
One day.
But I think too, you have to, again, if you're gonna pay somebody 5 hours a week, we have to be careful. We're not gonna, they're not gonna be beating our doors down to take that job, right? I mean, so.
They just need to be
I
held
think-
responsible.
I think the part of 8 to 5, yes. Now, is it Monday? I mean, try to get, maybe it's every Monday, or maybe it's every Thursday, whatever.
Sure.
But to be so strict on that they have to do it these, we're gonna, no one's gonna wanna do it, cause they're like, it's 5 hours a week, or 5 hours a month, or whatever.
No, they can choose that time. I feel like I agree with Jerry though on the fact that
Yeah,
we need to know that it's getting done.
yeah.
And after an event, you could darn well, this person knows it's not a full-time, it's just strictly after an event.
But I still think, well, we have this though cleaned every week, or I think it was supposed to
Weekly.
be. And that used to be cleaned. So, but if we implement a non, or a refundable cleaning deposit too, that should help. I mean,
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to that. I mean, I feel like most places do that, so that they're covered in case
Mhm.
somebody leaves them
and
there.
most people that I know that use it consistently, Lions Club, for instance, or, I mean, it's cleaner than they found
Yeah.
it before, you know,
Yeah.
and even like Ed Matthews Funeral, those guys, I watch people there spend a lot of time cleaning it up, you know,
Yeah.
Right.
so, but so there are people though that, yeah, there's a birthday
And I
party.
think you mentioned too, talking with the mayor earlier, a couple months ago actually. Was it the same person doing this? Talk them into doing the bathrooms as well? They don't do any of that, do
Correct, they don't. That was an idea that was brought up.
they? Yeah. I'm not opposed to that.
That was the last thing, it was a birthday party, it was a Sweet 16. I don't think that's now that I remember, because
Yeah, I think I know. Yeah, I'm not. Is that something? I don't know how we go about this. I mean, we need a job description for one. The mayor doesn't have one. The clerk doesn't have one. Public Works doesn't have one. The meter reader doesn't have one. The cleaning person doesn't have one. That would be my opinion on where to start with the cleaning stuff.
Under the guise of the handbook, I don't think we technically need one for a part-time employee. It's just at your discretion as part.
but you still want to
We
have a
should.
job description for every
Because
position.
then I come in here's mayor and they're like, "What am I supposed to do?" And I'm like, "I have no idea."
Whatever you want. Yeah.
And that's
So
exactly
you
what's happened.
need some kind of
Guidelines for what is
You gotta
required
have
for the
something in
job.
writing.
Right.
That's not that the mayor has to stick to that. That's when Jess comes in here and goes, okay, well at least I have an idea of what the cleaning person should be doing on a weekly basis. But that's my opinion. I mean, if we're gonna move, David and I talked about possibly moving the bathroom cleaning into the person who cleans the hall and the memorial hall. Just note that. I mean, if that's something we chose to go that route, that's on the bottom. Includes,
That's a daily job though up there.
sure.
So,
But what I'm getting at
yeah.
is there needs to be something written down for this, and we need to decide on it.
Yep.
Is the bathroom cleaned at the end of the day or beginning?
It
I
used to
think
be in the
usually in the
morning.
morning.
It used to be in the morning.
Yeah, and I think it still is. They turn the water on in the summer and clean the bathroom. But
That's another thing I forgot to add to the agenda, and I'll wait till next time. Better write that down. Sprinkler system at the park.
sounds like Justin, probably you're not for the bathroom thing, or you would be as far as it being cleaned
Oh, I don't.
daily.
No,
Or I mean, it being cleaned, being that it's cleaned daily, having the person who cleans the memorial hall.
these part-time positions that we have are not the most sought after,
Yeah,
and so we've had I mean, before with the summer lawn mowing help. I mean, it was always a
Trouble
struggle.
getting
So
people.
if you have somebody that's willing to do it, now is that person only willing to? That Jerry mentioned, does that person only want to do it, sporadically when it's only after an event? But then what about Memorial Hall? I mean, City Hall that needs to be on a weekly basis, and then what about the bathrooms?
yeah.
I think, I mean, I don't know why the city got. I mean, I guess they just figured they were up there every day, and it was something they did,
Yeah.
trash and stuff. So I'm not opposed to it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it too was those guys saw it, and then if there was something wrong, then they knew they could fix it. And
Sure.
then instead of going from a bathroom cleaner coming to the clerk and telling the clerk, hey, something's wrong, and the clerk calling them,
Yeah.
it's just like, so that was before my time.
And
So
note that
I'm
we
not
will have
opposed.
another bathroom at some point added on to that
Yeah,
list. A single bathroom.
could be a full-time job.
Getting close. Okay, I think that is all I have. No, we don't. Go ahead, Jerry. You're up again.
Another thing I'm encountering, I'm thinking we could use a part-time cemetery administrator. We currently work off of this map. And there's probably 3 people in town that know how to read it. And that's even becoming questionable, because who knows how many hundreds of years old this is. We also have a thick book over there that's been around for God knows how long. We need an administrator that understands how to read these, understands that book, and can take care of our customers at the cemetery. Somebody that can sell plots, they can trade plots, they can move people, they can communicate with Public Works on when a grave needs to be dug and covered. They could work, if we choose to stay with the GIS, they could work with a specific program. There are cemetery management programs available. They could work within that program and keep care of this cemetery. Because there are a lot of people that contribute and a lot of people that have generations of family up there. And they get very offended if a weed's out of place. And if we had an administrator to take care of that, it would take a lot of pressure off of me for one, and it would also set people's minds at ease that that cemetery is taken care of. And if they don't have 20 hours worth of work to do in a week, they could assist here in City Hall, because there's a lot of work that I don't have time to get to.
On average, typically, how many questions, busy time is there? How many inquiries for the cemetery and what you were referring to?
I have had at least 5 a week,
Okay.
and there are things I can't answer. There's a lot of genealogy type things that come in too. And people say, I'm related to so-and-so, and I need to know
Where they're buried?
where they're buried, when they were buried. And
Well,
I don't want to give that information to just anybody. And you have to know how to read that book to verify that they are who they are.
Well, I know right around Memorial Day, the frequency of questions increases.
So two things, and I talked to Jerry a little bit about this today. So Bunny obviously did this for 40 years. I don't know all the specifics. Levi and Peter might know. I told Jerry to talk to Michael or to Bunny that while the endowment, that cemetery endowment has a lot of dollars in it, $500,000, we can't spend hardly any of it. So my question to Jerry today was, how are we going to pay for this? And then he just mentioned too, if there's not enough work for 20 hours a week for the cemetery, then we'll have them do City Hall work.
You can't,
My question is, how are we going to pay for that? Our budget, we just hired 2 people on the Public Works that were beyond what we were at before.
mhm.
So, I don't know if, and it's come up several times in the last few weeks, people brought up, or before I left, about having a cemetery board to manage it. Bunny was absolutely against it. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know if that's even, but she was like, it's not a good idea. And I don't know the reasons. I don't know the ins and outs of what, but if it's separate, I don't know if it was because it allowed the city to then offset some costs with other things and put it into the cemetery. But, and again, that's the challenge we had of somebody with 40 years of doing it. And then we've had Jerry's the third clerk after her in 18 months. And so it never got passed. It never went to Janice either, though. Janice never was told. But I don't think, I mean, honestly, though, unless we can figure out that endowment money, I don't think there's the dollars there, because we've never had that opportunity before. And Bunny was always, when I did the budgets for the 2 years or whatever I did them with her, very strict guidelines of what that entailed. And so it's how we have it set up. and people send us money, so I was always trying to direct it to the other way so we could actually spend it. But if it goes to that endowment, it just sits there.
I guess my question is, why do people donate if you can't use it?
They don't know, I don't think. There's two different funds for the cemetery.
Okay,
And if it goes to the one fund, we don't get we get the interest off of it.
because I imagine there's probably some people that donate quite a bit, and they don't see no bang for
We had
their
somebody
dollar.
donate, I think, $50,000 or $100,000 a few years ago. And it went to that endowment fund. So we get the interest off the endowment, which sometimes is pennies right now, right? I mean,
Right, so,
or a few dollars a year. But then this other money that we, like sales and service,
yeah.
right? We dig a grave, we sell a plot,
That's
or
operating.
that's what we get to use. So we're kind of hamstrung with it.
So how do you, I guess, I don't know the question or answer to this, is, are we tied up with an endowment fund? Can we move it around, I mean, how did it get set up in the first place?
I don't know that. All I know is that we are tied, we are hamstrung with it.
And I don't understand that either. I've even asked Mike
I mean, that,
about it. My other question, well, that doesn't even really matter.
Well, we could
Why
use-
does the city own a cemetery to begin with?
Yep.
I just, as a general question, not that anyone has to answer, like, that's just my
Well, again,
thought
I
process.
think
How did we become to own a cemetery?
I think, again, it affords the city, or it has afforded the city over time. When you're buying a new piece of equipment, you can use the cemetery for part of the pay for that. Is a way to not that that's the right way, or that's my only thing. I don't know other reasons
Yeah.
why, but again, I don't know the whole thing on why we wouldn't want to have a cemetery district.
Yeah.
But if you talk to Bunny, she is adamant, and I don't know if it was in Paul too. And again, I have no
I
idea
remember something about that.
the good or bad of it. Like I'm not saying she's wrong or not. I just don't know. But
Yeah.
but she said it wasn't a good idea. So for me, again, when I came into the mayor, I was just trying to stay down the middle. So I wasn't even going to rock that boat and go down that path. So that might be something that we look into
Like the end of December, end of November. time.
January
January,
12th.
middle of January.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the surplus list.
But there are other people here that have cemetery districts.
Sure,
Yeah,
almost
okay.
most all of them are. They have
I think when talking
cemetery
money, I think
district.
it had something to do with losing identity to it, or you don't get the money, this money stays here, you don't.
The city wouldn't get it, but if the cemetery district is Harrington Cemetery District, it's not leaving. But again, you have to pay it. I mean, there's overhead, so the same thing. There's some overhead, and you have an administrator, but it costs money to operate.
Yeah.
So, but that endowment, the way it's set up, and the way that we get that money back out, it is we are hamstrung.
Do we know how much, where it's invested or how it's invested? Or is it invested?
It, yeah.
That's a treasurer's. It used to be.
Do you remember, Steve?
If I remember Dylan talking about once when he was creating a budget, he said that for various reasons it's put in very, very safe funds. So it's
Like CDs.
well, yeah, or something that's even like a flat rate fund or something like that. It's like almost targeted to the worst return rate you could possibly get. Because there's no either legal allowance for it, or there's no appetite for any risk, which means there's no appetite for any reward either.
Jerry, what are your thoughts on the I'd love to have somebody that knew in and out the potential GIS stuff, the book, everything to do with it. But I've got to ask the same question with Justin. How do we fund that person? I mean, do we have any ideas right off the top?
Well, there is the maintenance fund that gets filled every year. I don't know how long. A part-time person at $12 an hour is not going to eat that much out of it. We also need to go back to the original paperwork on the endowment. Because if that endowment can be used for maintenance of the cemetery, then maintenance of the cemetery could include an administrator.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because the administrator would be taking care of that, monitoring all the landscaping contracts and everything. And then we could pull some of the money out of that endowment to maintain that and not out of the city budget.
Can we change, question, can we change going forward the donor money, future donations to do just that? It doesn't go in that endowment?
They
You could tell them,
yeah, they choose.
if you came in here to donate money tomorrow, Jerry could say, do you want it in the endowment fund or do you want it in the maintenance fund? And you can make that choice.
He-
And if Jerry tells you that we can't use that money other than the interest that it generates,
Yeah,
and it generates pennies, then,
you're basically
Right.
throwing it away, I mean.
but it depends what, it's a legacy, right? It's the Budris family legacy that's gonna be there for a bazillion years. I mean,
If the
it just
endowment can't be used for this, once we review the restrictions on it, then I would be inclined to invite the public, anyone who might have their eye on being the first Harrington Cemetery District Commissioner, to work with us on forming one. Because it sounds like the council may have an openness to working with that person and seeing it formed.
I would say though, we need to talk to Bunny, somebody does,
about that district.
because she'll, at least it's a data point, whether we agree, that we as a council agree with her or not, she has vital information of why for 40 years that she was here with Paul, that they did not go that direction.
Yeah, I can do that.
If
Marge and Carol might be worth talking to too.
I know Bunny does, because I just can't remember, it was 3
Well,
months.
Marge does the genealogy, Bunny has all the operations piece of it, so.
I think
If-
it definitely needs some research just in general. I've asked Justin that, and he's explained what he explained to you guys tonight to me before. I said, well, in 50 years, what happens with that endowment money? And he said, I don't know. And so at some point, we as a city, I almost feel like it's embarrassing that we don't know as a whole what happens to that money. What happens to it in 2 years? What happens in
Well,
20?
it goes
what
back
happens
to the other thing, like there's nothing written down, there's no job description, there's no why, except Scott, Bunny, and Paul were all here for 40 years each. They collectively had all this knowledge, and
I
then
say we take them on a camping trip for one weekend, and we get to ask them any
Questions
question we
know.
want for as long as we want.
Paul
72
passed
hours.
away,
As
so.
far as
well, then we have the camping trip at the cemetery.
Cemetery.
Well, yeah, I agree, because when I found out about the endowment fund, I says, well, why are we squabbling about the shack up there, or, the shed, tool shed? And I find out you can't touch them, and I says, well, the premises people donate, and you go, well, I want the cemetery to look beautiful. and
Look
I
what we
want
did
this
with
and
your
what-"
money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you might as well just mail a check, well, you do, tax, but I mean, just
Right?
goodbye, and never see it, and no benefit to it, doesn't,
question,
Okay.
Stephen,
I wonder if anybody's
is
ever
there any
applied for one
section of the
that
handbook that
recommended
addresses the cemetery?
no.
No.
No, because it's targeted towards employees, and there's no employee that's exclusive to the cemetery. However, I would say though, Jerry, I wouldn't waste any time proving heritage though, because it's my understanding that Freedom of Information Act means that you're obligated to return any information that's requested unless it's a personnel issue. So there's no need to verify heritage in order to respond to a request.
But if that request is to buy a plot in a
Adjacent to.
correct location, then you go down that. That's an example of when he has to do that. I want to
That's
buy a
where-
plot next to. I'm pretty sure I'm related to this guy. I think his name is. Can you find him? And I want the plot right to the south of him. Then it becomes a sales thing. So
Oh, okay.
on
sure.
those types of
But for
inquiries,
informational
yeah.
requests, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where Bunny and Marge worked a lot really close together, because Marge did all the history of those families. She might not know where they're at, I mean, she probably does, but she knew all that.
Where they come from. and-
Yeah, but then Bunny was in charge of this stuff,
Yeah.
but that's our system.
Currently,
Oh.
Cynthia's volunteering numerous hours to get this squared away while Marge is still with us. And it's got to get computerized, because,
But I would say Marge is not the person to talk to.
well, she's the one to talk to for a lot of the information on who's related to who. And yes, Bunny has information, but
I think
But
between
is that
the
a
two of
city
them,
is that a
Pardon
city's
me
job?
for-
Is that a city's job to know who's related to who? If you want to buy a cemetery plot, if you want to buy it next to John Smith or Bill Smith, it's not my job. I don't think it's the city's job to say, well, Bill and John were actually, blood brothers, or not blood brothers, but they were, whatever. That's not like
Yep.
this is our cemetery. We have a directory up there. We have
Well, with the proviso, I totally agree with you, but I don't know that we can leave it at that until we have a map that's workable for
date.
people.
sure.
I would say once we've gotten to that point, I totally agree with you. We should get out of the business of advising people which plot do they actually want to buy.
Well, where the names are faded, the heritage comes in. Because you have to know who to talk to in the family to say who's buried in this plot.
Which
'Cause
is
we
why I'm
can't
saying
read the
this
map.
this update
Right.
comes first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
you can't read that map there. Is that etched in stone, or what is that thing?
Pencil.
Pencil?
Whiteboard.
The tablets,
I think God drew it with his finger on
Yeah.
the mountain.
Just a
Any
quick
race there.
interjection on something you said. It's related, but kind of off one side. That shed there. I want to remind you guys that there is money set aside for that shed.
Okay.
It's already in the budget. It's ready to go. So, the committee gets onto that subject, know that there is money there.
And to be clear, GIS is not going to return us anything with names when they do the mapping. They're just going to say there's something buried here.
No, it'll all be names. It'll be essentially like the
Parcel
map sifter. So you'll click on the parcel, it'll outline it or
Okay.
whatever it does, and then it
So
pops up,
that's-
says John Smith.
But we have to do that though.
We have to
We
give
put
them
the
the
Some of
there.
it.
We have to
We
give them
need some
information.
help from us to them. They're gonna build all the GIS stuff. They're gonna do all the collection. I sent them pictures of this, and they said, "Yeah, I don't think so."
What'd they say?
They laughed.
They laughed.
They told us to fly a kite.
They said, "Okay, well, you guys are gonna need to provide us with the information to put into building the
Yeah.
GIS layer."
And that means reading tablets.
Yeah.
Means reading that. That means going through
They're
that.
going to map it basically and say there's a plot here. It's up to us to say who's in that plot.
Essentially, yep. I mean, what they can figure out,
Yes.
they will. But yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a lot of well, this is R32. I don't even know how they're numbered, embarrassingly enough, but right, that's who's there, and then watch. Yep, that's right, or no, you're 4 spaces off. But
Well, if it's any consolation, last Memorial weekend, we went with family and some other people's family. Can't remember the cemetery, but anyways, they had people under tents and running golf carts around, people coming. Well, John Smith he was a relative and he was buried here, and he's in R1 or whatever, and nowhere to be found. So it's not a perfect. There's other problems. I mean,
Yeah.
it's conducive to other cemeteries, but this looks like the step in the right direction, and it sounds. I wouldn't have thought that there was that many inquiries, but I think now probably more. Going to be more than I thought. But
this one's in uniform.
so I think going forward, I need to do, or a committee, Parks and Rec or somebody. We need to do some legwork on the money part. I mean, right off the bat, and find out what is going on with the endowment fund. What's happening with it now? What will happen with it? And then obviously we need some follow up on the GIS stuff for the cemetery, and then we'll go from there.
I mean, that could solve a lot of our problems. These donors. I mean, if they knew,
It's
what
definitely
they-
going to help.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
Nathan, I have to leave. I'm going to leave.
Okay.
Do you need anything on your COVID money? Like, do you need a vote? Or
No. I think we have some legality stuff we have to go before we can designate money.
okay,
Unless, yeah. No, we don't need a vote.
sorry, I just have to
That's fine.
wake up the crocodile. now.
Yeah.
Safe
I don't blame
travels.
you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Safe journey.
Have a good one,
Um,
Justin.
We'll move into that last item. We know we're gonna get one. We have got our installment for 2021, and then there'll be another installment in 2022 of our American Rescue Plan Act funding. Jerry and I have spent, I don't know, a lot of half hours after his work day talking about this. We would like to, I would propose using some of this money to look at replacing water meters. We're having some trouble with meter reading, the condition of the meters, the reads, the billing part of that. That kind of is a domino effect in that nature. Second of all, Justin put in place a plan to replace so many water meters a year. There's a 10-year period. We're going to do, I think, 9 a year, 12 a year, and get them all replaced to be a little proactive. I think about 6 got replaced in 4 years, and that was because they were
Mhm.
broke.
How many do we have, any count?
Well, we do about 256 bills
Okay,
So-
that's enough.
every month.
We actually had somebody stop in recently and talk to us about they just happened to swing by about some electronic meters as far as them reading. They read as you walk by or drive by.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on using some of this money to replace our water meters? I mean, I don't want to talk for an hour about it. As far as I don't want to.
I thought
It's something that needs attention.
I thought the money had to be related to some COVID pertinent.
Infrastructure is allowed.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure that benefits the community is allowed. So fixing water, sewer,
Finally, some
Um,
COVID money we can
How
use.
about
Internet.
on that too now?
all that sort of stuff can be used with the COVID money.
The GIS stuff.
My-
They can use it to build roads and bridges, Peter. That's what the federal government's using it for.
So my thought here.
There you go. There's your backing for
we
the
have-
Second Street project.
Our revenues are utilities, our water, sewer, garbage. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, we make a tiny bit of money, but
Adams.
the sewer stuff is making progress. We have $1.2 million project potentially going to happen. Garbage really doesn't take much. We move some trash cans around and make sure that everybody's getting charged correctly. Water's another big one. That's our third big utility,
Mhm.
and Jerry's newer with us, but I'm telling you, it's not because he's not trying to learn this stuff. We're having some issues with the billing, and it stems from the water meters. That's how we charge for water, and I would like to kind of dive into this and see if we could get a plan together, what your guys' thoughts are, a schedule, some this year, some next year, what this guy that stopped in was willing to give us a little presentation on his company's water meters, something to get this issue taken care of.
Is it
Can we-
one time purchase? There's no subscription involved?
Don't
or
know.
anything like that?
How much
I've
money
never
are we
met him.
talking about?
Money wise,
Yeah.
I don't know that either.
Can it be used for rebuilding the water tank?
I just don't think we're gonna get much for 120,000. Yeah, it probably could, yes. But I've heard some preliminary numbers on the water tower, $500,000 to $1
I was
million.
gonna say you're looking at least $500,000 for the water tank.
So, my position with water meters has been that we should budget for worst case scenario replacement every year, and then replace only as necessary. So if we have meters that are broken, we should replace them. Even without this money, it's in the budget, we should replace them. But I wouldn't use this money to proactively replace meters that aren't broken, because as long as the budget allows for us to have the worst case scenario projected replacement numbers in a year, there should always be money to cover it. Whereas if we proactively replace a meter that's good, we waste lifespan because we can't use it elsewhere. And I think generally we're in a position that budget-wise we need to be as frugal as we can be.
Yeah, I'd ties.
However, this COVID money, we get 2 installments. And with those, we potentially could take care of all the meters and increase our revenue by 15 to 20%.
So is it use it or lose it?
It's
COVID.
not
This money.
23, there may not be COVID money again. We may
Sure,
not have.
But if it doesn't go away, if we don't use it, there's nothing wrong with putting it in the bank.
You can't.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it is use it
It
or
is
lose
use
it.
it or lose
Okay.
it, yes.
So is this something we could buy at X amount, like 100 meters ahead of time and have them?
Yeah, absolutely. If say we were going to install them, we could absolutely buy the I mean, we could buy them and then put them in.
We have a place to store them now.
But it just depends what route. That's why we just need to look at it a little bit more in depth. Not
That's
at a
fine.
public meeting, but
I could back that. If we buy them and don't install them and keep them for when they get used, I'm
How-
fine with that.
However, if we go down, say we chose to go with this style of meter, then we're talking software integration with our bias to get them read to make sure that we get them in. The problem is the numbers on those meters. It's not that they don't flow water, but we had a $4,200 utility bill to somebody that's never missed a payment that I know of.
So it's because the meters aren't reading correctly.
And so
Not being
what I
read
s-
correctly, not being read at all.
But I'm saying I think that's a separate argument. If the meter's not working correctly, then it's broke and it should be replaced, and that's already budgeted. Proactive water meter replacement and replacing meters that are broken are two separate considerations, at least in my mind. I don't understand why we're putting them into the same category and same budget considerations.
Because it's money saved, potential money saved by
Yes.
putting in new meters proactively if they're not broken.
And it's something that I think Justin, as mayor, wanted to start a program where,
It's in place.
yeah.
It's been in the budget for years. So say that question again, Stephen, to make sure I'm.
Well, what I'm saying is that either meter is functioning correctly and we're not having any billing issues from it.
We don't know if it's functioning correctly. Is it one hang up?
And could you use this money to buy the meters and then take the money that is budgeted for the meters and go to maintenance vehicles and other?
So how did we have a $4,200 bill to someone whose meter wasn't working properly? How did we end up, because it was overcharging?
We don't know. That was just an example that I dealt with yesterday.
And you'll spend too much. I will confess, my bill went up $7 last month, and I've been watering like a machine. So
I too.
And,
I don't know that mine's
Every
not
year that I've
doing
been here,
the
I
wrong
water
thing.
And-
massive amounts.
Well, and part of that's the schedule, the tiered schedule for water too, that
Yeah.
needs to be looked at. But
Mhm.
And my meter works,
yeah,
and the most you ever charged me is $10.
yeah, it's only like 25 cents a thousand after 5.
So
Until you get
how
to
do we really
20,000.
make money on that? It doesn't sound,
I
sounds
doubt
like
that we
I'm
do.
using just barely over the amount that you allot everybody every month.
Well, this is why when we were talking about the rate structure, I would really be in favor of trying to reduce our base rates and increase our cost per gallon, at least to a certain extent. I think our rates are structured improperly, because I've always been an advocate of we need to figure out how we're paying for things as a city and then try to pass the costs along to our consumers of the utility in the same manner. And I don't
Being
think
even-handed with it.
I don't think we're doing that.
I agree.
Okay. Well, it's a thought. Do you guys have any other thoughts on potential uses for the money? For the COVID money? Or
I think infrastructure would be our sidewalks, anything that, infrastructure, period.
I'd agree. I
How
think
much
that's-
money is sitting there?
55 a year, is it 55,000 a year?
And the state threw in some, so it's a couple dollars over 60,000.
Yeah, I think
This
it's like
check.
$60,001.
Pity a city truck couldn't be deemed as infrastructure.
That's in
So-
my notes. So that was, if I can't find that
We'll
out
take
yet.
the money that was budgeted, if.
So here's what I do in relation to meters. Buying them with this money, because it is use it or lose it, I have no problem with. Buy them, put them somewhere, use them as we need them. As far as proactively replacing ones, here's the deal. We don't know if the new one's going to go in and give us the same numbers as the old ones or not. We can make hypothesis based upon things don't smell right, but we don't necessarily know if we take a meter that appears to be clicking off things, if we're going to actually be getting more from it or not. So what I would do is run a trial, try and look for some houses that have very constant usage, small lawns, anything that's going to be pretty much the same throughout the year. Even go to the point of reading the meters through the winter time and try and compare what's going on with it and see if we're getting a difference. If the new meter is reading like 25%, 30% more gallons than the old one over time, then I would be encouraged to put in more of the meters to say that we're going to get more accurate reads. But if the new meters end up showing pretty much what the old ones did, then I don't see the reason to proactively replace. If we purchased them and we have them, we won't have to pay more money when they go bad. I don't want to take an old meter out if it's functioning properly.
The money saved those is more of on the efficiency part too of our guys. I mean, not just all of the gallons. This is a remote RFID read, sends it to the computer. They don't have to deal with it. That's just an example. They don't have to be that. The guy that stopped that wants to present to us, that's the style of meter he's proposing. You walk by it, you drive by it, it reads it. Some of them you don't even have to. You don't have to read it. And so that was some of the stuff that got into my mind, maybe about efficiency.
12 months a year.
Read 12 months a year. I think we should read all winter anyways. I have no idea why we read. I just honestly
Because
don't know the
they
answer.
wanted to encourage people to leave their water running in the winter to keep it from pipes freezing and bursting.
You
you
have
still
said
could.
that
Maybe
before.
Yep.
difficult to read.
I'll-
than 3
And
feet
when
of
they're
snow.
frozen solid into
Well,
the ground.
Seattle and Tri-Cities and Spokane and Poulsbo and Kent do it. So
I don't know what the rate
I
of
think
people
we could do it.
who are Avista customers that chose to not go to smart meters, but I think you'll have an interesting conversation in the town if you say that you want to take our water meters to smart meters as well.
interesting as in bad.
Lively. Yeah.
Distrust in technology.
I'm saying smart meter concerns is a whole thing if you haven't looked it up online.
I love mine. I think it's fantastic, but maybe I don't know enough. Okay, well, you guys think on that some more. That
Okay.
was just something that Jerry and I had thought about. That guy that stopped by wanted to present to us was actually kind of a coincidence for timing because both the money thing was just getting finished up and we were receiving that money and then we were having some problems with billing stuff. So
Not a good time to.
yeah, so if there's other stuff, if there's specific projects, I'd love to hear or see a committee list of that. We kind of know what it is.
If we go with a company like that, we decide, and we go with a company like this guy, he has a crew that installs them, and that way it doesn't take our public works guys out of the picture to install them. They will do it as part of the package and maintain them, so.
Yeah, we just definitely want to keep that on the. I'm gonna put a little bit more information together just on the COVID money in general. There is some use or lose it stipulations, but it's not December. It's not quick, so I want to get all the information that I can. I'll probably just email it to you guys so you can read it at your leisure. But okay, what a couple questions, just public comment.
This meter thing, you need to have some uniformity too. Right now, some of them are buried in the ground. Mine's in my basement with an external read on the outside of the house. So I couldn't tell you if it's accurate or not. But I know they read it every month.
That's been on the agenda to get done
Accessible,
for.
as I understand, they're in the ditch. Some of them are in the basement, some of them are on the first floor. Over the years, they've done.
Cobbled it together?
Well, there was
Some
nothing
properties
standard,
have
so they need
meters.
to be standardized.
Some
They're
properties have
obviously not
meters that don't
involved.
get charged for utilities, but there's a meter to it and it's hooked up.
So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Number two, a real quick one. Your city park, the guys have to go every morning and turn the water on. You might think of putting in some electronic sprinkler systems.
I was gonna bring
Not a
that up.
great deal of money, I wouldn't think, that take care of themselves. You
Next
turn
to
them on in
June.
the spring, you turn them off in the fall. And they automatically come on and the guys forget about them, other than replace sprinklers.
I think they originally did that with having to turn it on every day and turn it off every day because
I
if I
can't
remember correctly as a child, juveniles were messing with the stuff and that is why they ended up doing it that way.
Well, imagine you could lock a vault, you know,
Yep.
I'm
I
calling
think
it
it's
a vault.
I think
that
it's
may
all
not
locked
be.
inside the shed like at the cemetery.
Okay.
If I was-
It is
No.
now, but what was it? Because I couldn't believe they went, I know some moons ago, they bragged about putting this new system in, and to find out, I just learned that it wasn't, I go, what do you mean, it's not automatic up there? I go,
No?
holy cow.
They turn on water there, they turn on water at this park, and they turn on water down there every day.
Yeah.
That's
So
that's
there's a
one
lot
of 3
for COVID
places.
money too.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Joe,
Joe.
did you have something?
No, I was just gonna say that that question of what to do with the COVID money was, the Spokane, it was on the news where their number's a lot bigger,
Sure.
but they were forming committees and asking for public input and all the rest of it, because it was the same deal. It's a one-time kind of gift almost that's falling out of the sky. How do you spend it without having to maintain whatever you spend it on?
Sure.
Mhm.
I like the public comment too. I mean, that'd probably be wise of us just to have an
And-
informal, some kind of a public.
The
Invite.
maintenance part of it is what scares me the most about these smart meters, because that's great that they'll install them and maintain them and stuff, but I'm sure that their overhead in doing that's likely going to be more than ours servicing ourselves, and they'll have wonderful software that'll make you sandwiches and do your taxes, and it'll all be for a very reasonable fee that we won't have money for in our budget. So that's my
GIS.
concern, that I don't know that we have a scale in this city that is appropriate for having smart meters.
Do they have to be smart meters?
No,
No.
no, absolutely
I
not.
mean, what,
That was just one example of one person
That
that
brought it to
stopped
your
by.
mind, correct?
He said it's available to do this, and I was like, that'd be
Why-
kind
why-
of cool.
I think like Mr. Solhan said, that a lot of them maybe standardize, instead of climbing a telephone pole, to read the meter, or looking in the basement, or, a manhole down there with black widows, somewhere where it's all,
It's been on the
Standardized.
public works
So-
to-do list since I've been involved. I'll show you
Yeah.
the dates.
It
on
was there before.
sure.
Basic
So
infrastructure.
it's
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
It's
won't
like with
harp on that
everything
here,
else,
but that
it's
decision
followed
was made
through.
a long time ago and nothing was ever followed through on
I
it.
think we have 7 remote reads in the city, and that was one of the first things I asked. Said having the budget to, I think it's 9 meters a year. Maybe it was 12. That's what I want done in 2020. Are those ones? After that, we need to go block by block. There were 0 remote read meters changed.
Nope.
I think Stephen had a great idea, or maybe it was you, that you need to do a test somewhere of a house that has a meter.
I don't think it's a flow problem, just personally, just to get that out there. I don't think that meter's miscalculating. I think that the numbers aren't being able to be seen. They're being misread.
Misread.
There's too many digits. There's not enough digits. We don't read in the winter, so then it get the first month in the spring gets tied up. I just think there's a lot of
There's broken
It's
pipe
given-
going around and it's just vanishing.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
It may have given rise to a reading problem too, or a billing problem. Jerry and I were talking about this on Wednesday. My billing for water is completely cattywampus. Have no idea what the problem is. But we ought to look at the
The
billing.
golf course pulling off your spigots again, Peter?
I suspect that.
I mean, I could support that. There's technologies with RFID and stuff where you bring it close, it pushes a bit of a signal to it, and it comes back with the reading. That's different than Avista smart meters. Avista smart meters make it so that no one has to get into the area. There's no one coming in here. There's a little receiver that's on the electrical poles, and it goes out like
no,
that.
this is RFID.
So as long as we're not talking about a system that we're subscribing to, that they're like, oh, you don't even have to take anyone around there. But if they have like a little beeper thing that they
So you
get
don't have to
within
dig the hole up
proximity,
every single time.
I'm okay with that, because that's not inherently a subscription. That's not tying us to a long-term
You're
maintenance.
just purchasing technology.
Yeah, that's fine. I have
I'd
no
be curious to
problem with
see
that.
what that tool is. Like, say we
It's a
get down the
cell phone
road.
app.
What's that?
It's a cell phone
Oh,
app.
okay. And
for
then
this
that,
one.
from what he said, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, that can then be tied into our billing system. It's not a billing system they have. It
Proprietary.
ties into bias
As far as
and
I
just
know.
gives bias those reads, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, I would really, really like to get all of the utility stuff, water, sewer, garbage on a flat 100% so that we feel comfortable about it. And what I mean by that is to make sure everything in the computer's correct, make sure all of our stuff is plainly spelled out in English and in ordinance resolutions. And I think water's got, whether it be from the city employees going forward or whatever it takes, but just to get that up to snuff. So that was the reason for that. So if you guys think about it, I'd love to see a list. Who is on the? Who would that go to committee wise? Anyways, think about it.
Some additions to the
You can email me 24 hours a day. Call me maybe a little bit less. 20. Let's give it to 20 hours.
3 in the morning. I got a great idea.
If it's that good, I won't even be mad. I'll just answer the phone. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you guys.
Did you want
Our additions
Man, what am I'm losing.
ready to get out of here.
I am.
Did you get the bill
You-
paid?
1 month off the job, Nathan, you get rusty.
And I have a
You get rusty.
pounding headache. That doesn't help either. Yes, I'm sorry, especially because there's council editions on there. Okay, we took care of the meeting minutes. Peter, weed
Just briefly,
situation.
weeds. Particularly up near Olaf Street. There-
My jungle?
Not yours, the one on the north side of
Yeah,
Olaf.
I refer to it as my jungle.
Oh.
That's
Also, the piece of land, piece of property that the city owns that's listed on the list is overgrown with weeds.
That's why we want
It's
to get
time
rid
to
of
get
it.
it mowed. I mean, if we're gonna impose these statutes on citizens, we ought to hold the city to the same standard.
Sure.
Agree?
You gotta remember we had a numerous weeks of stressful growing time for weeds that we didn't have an employee. Got 2 employees with pesticide license. We don't have a sprayer application to spray those, to spray chemical. When we went to, I agree, I want them taken care of as soon as we can get them, but this is why they've not been sprayed or taken care of to date. So we said, okay, well, we'll go down to Nutrien. They'll loan us an apparatus to spray it, sell us the chemical, make some money, everybody's happy. Credit card wouldn't work. Why? We don't know. We got that taken care of. Pickup broke down. We had 0 city vehicles.
Yeah.
Mower would not turn.
Yeah.
No 3-point mower. Tractor would run, but the mower wouldn't turn. All those have been mitigated and taken care of. However, just a heads up to anyone listening online and you guys here that's the reason we have 4-foot kochia in most places. So we will try to get those taken care of as soon as possible.
Second item I had was the yard waste bin. Do we have a regular schedule for emptying that?
No.
No.
As we call.
Okay. It's about time to empty it, I think.
What do you guys think about pulling that bin permanently?
Eliminating it?
Yep.
Just using the dump site?
I'm for it.
Yeah. If it's, how much money is it gonna save?
Yeah.
About
Exactly.
$1,000?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit less.
Do you remember why we originally put it there?
Dylan put it there, I think.
Was it for people to use green waste after hours that they could not
It
obtain
was-
a key?
Yeah.
That and because of the apple maggot quarantine, we weren't allowed to throw our stuff into the trash anymore. So we had to have
Gotcha.
somewhere to put it, and that would allow us to carry it to the county, I believe.
So it's okay
does that
Not
go to?
anymore, though.
Carry
Okay.
it out. Yeah,
Right? Is that the sign out of town that the county put up? Now
Yeah.
you can't.
So it can't go anywhere now.
So
Dump or
we,
burn pile.
we have
The
a
green
reference
waste
file.
disposal site.
Phillips, yeah,
Okay.
on top of the
Now, how solid of a deal is that? I don't.
about
you
this
were-
solid.
It's just
Yeah,
a matter of
and
time.
it's getting big enough right now that he might not even be able to dispose of that as dry as it's been. So
Do we burn that in the fall or
We're
winter?
supposed to.
yeah, in the winter usually Charlie takes care of it.
Fire district.
Fire
burns it.
district does it now. You guys are gonna have
As
fun
long
with
as
it
I've
this
been
year.
involved.
Lots of fun with it this year.
So what are the pros? The cons to that is, well, the weather the way it is, and then going and doing it.
Yeah, it should have been done in March or whenever we usually burn it. Or sometimes if it's big enough and gets used enough, it'll get burnt twice a year. But I don't
Well-
think it's been burned.
It used to be burned as a part of homecoming.
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say they don't have no serpentines.
Don't they
up
do
there
that anymore?
No.
No,
They don't have no football team.
I think there's a lot of things that went into it, but
That's a good point.
the the yard waste, we have no real way of holding customers accountable for using it as far as like upping the rates to cover that cost. We could maybe do some math and do it. Okay, we dump it on average 12 times a year. Costs us $150 a whack. Do the math on it if we wanted to. Second of all,
Is it a quick question before you go? Is it $1,000 per dump?
no,
$1,000 per month.
it's 150 a dump. It's whenever we call. So if we need it dumped 6
Fine.
times in the same month, they'll charge us 6 dump fees.
Okay,
But
that's
I'm-
fine.
We'd have to look at the position.
'Cause I go
Jerry
by
can
there.
provide that number for me, but I can tell you that we're going to go over budget if we aren't already on just that and the cardboard bins being dumped. I think there's about $1,000 in the budget to dump them.
Well, I know that thing is all. I know people from out of town use
See,
them.
that
And
galls me.
that down here is all. I go by it quite regularly, and it's always full. And what are the alternatives? People, well,
Tell them they can go to the burn pile 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
is it? Do you need to check out a key or
Yeah,
something
Yeah.
there's
like
2
that?
keys right here that they sign out.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to get our constituents used to the fact that pretty soon the city of Harrington is no longer going to be in the business of helping you dispose of your green waste. We're not going to be able to afford it. One of 2 things is going to happen. Either Phillips is going to say no more, or the Department of Ecology is going to come in and say no more. It's just, and then without that, we could not handle anywhere near the volume that gets put up there by any method we'd have to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't even matter whether I want to or not. I've used it a lot this year because some of you know I was taking out junipers. So I understand the benefit. I don't want to see it go away, but as a councilman, I don't see any possible way we can afford it that I can see. So
Well-
we might as well start working people towards it not being a shock when it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
But, we used to have a dump that you could dump it in. You used to be able to, yesteryear, you used to be able to burn the rubbish itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, the alternative, you have to drag it over to Davenport or the nearest landfill.
If we have a way of being good stewards with Phillips, that might be something that we can count on, continue to count on for a long period of time. There's some challenges with that.
Money towards maybe we could offer to gravel the road. If thing gets so soupy,
Mm-hmm.
it probably your parents don't like living there, I would imagine, because the dust cloud can come down. Or we can do.
Oh, it's terrible in the
I
summer.
don't know what we could do to try and extend that relationship,
Oil it.
but I'd say $1,000. If you're going to spend $1,000 somewhere, spend it on trying to make that go as long as we can make it go. Because spending $1,000 a year to dump that tiny little bin,
It's a waste of money.
I don't know if I go that far, but I don't know if it's an efficient use of money.
There's some challenges
It's a much
with
better way to
keeping
word it.
tabs on Phillips's piece too. We do get stuff that's not supposed to be dumped up there once in a while, and I don't have an
Mhm.
answer how to
Police
Quite a
that.
bit up there.
yeah and how to police that. But that's been a big issue. But
Game camera.
The video
We'll see if you get
surveillance. Video surveillance does it.
so.
I want to do that with the cardboard.
Okay,
ones,
well,
too.
we'll maybe that's a letter that needs to go out to,
Everybody.
towards the end of the year when that goes away permanently. That might be something that we decide on then. I just was curious because I'm like Steven, I'm glad that people use it, but holy smokes, it's not going to be too long before it's $2,000
Well, it's insufficient.
a year just for the
It's
green
not big
waste,
enough.
and then you got the cardboard and the tin bin on top of it. So, okay. Clerk bill payment timing options is what I had. I don't know exactly how to word that correctly.
Twice a month.
What's that?
Twice a month. Is that what it's about?
Yeah. So, we had spoken about this prior at some point.
Yeah.
There was an
And-
email thread.
Is that what it was? My
Mike
memory's
responded.
obviously.
Yeah.
Bi-monthly?
At any time a bill, I want him to have the ability to pay that invoice when it arrives here at City Hall.
I have no problem with it.
Do we need a resolution, probably written something in writing, I'm guessing, or can we vote on that? I
What's the issue?
want to, what's that?
What's the issue again? You want Jerry, city clerk, to be able to pay?
Yeah, I want him to pay a bill, be able to have the ability to pay an invoice or a bill when it's received.
As opposed to having them pile up or possibility of
that
them being
is-
overdrawn.
Maybe before the due
continuing
date.
Or overdue, I mean.
continuing to not kind of to pose problems. It gets sticky, it gets short, the due dates and stuff like that. I would like to try to rectify any problems that we may have paying bills by doing that, giving him the authority to pay a bill. Now we would still get reports, and obviously the council would still have to approve it. We already approve bills now
Right.
that are already paid, so we would still approve them. We could still look through them, questions, anything like that. But there's some times that, depending on when that invoice or bill comes in, that it could be there for 30 days waiting to be paid.
Well, I guess my question is, I thought that's the way
Yeah.
business was always done. Why is there a hold on it? Why is somebody sitting on it to pay it?
No, we've always had some paid and some unpaid. So ones that are paid, we're approving after they've already been paid, which is backwards in my
Oh,
book
yeah,
anyways.
I mean,
But then the ones going forward, so if we got a bill, then the unpaid ones, that list of them that we approve, if there's a bill that comes the day after council, that is, how do we pay that? It's never been approved. It wasn't even on
But
the
I thought
unpaid.
that becomes the paid claims for the next month. Let me put it this
Yes,
way. On
correct.
what authority is he paying the claims that are listed as paid that we vote on every month now? And why does not extend to everything?
I guess, I don't know, it's a good question.
Well, since I came on, I have been, when I get a bill in the mail, I put it in accounts payable. I get 3 or 4 in there, and I print them and I put them in Nathan's basket to have them signed and approved.
Right.
That's because
And-
they were all paid as a whole, as a chunk.
Mhm.
Like Janice had written out 10 or waited till 10 or 15 of them,
Yeah,
and this would just be one, maybe one by one.
But that was still getting paid before the next council meeting, right?
Correct.
So that was already still operating. Well, what's the difference between the ones that are and the ones that aren't?
It's just waiting for an approval from the mayor.
Because what I'm not hearing here is a difference between what you're already doing now and what you want to do.
Just in clumps or lots instead
Yeah,
of
you're
as
just
individual.
But if
changing
that,
this.
if one of those ones in that clumps doesn't get paid till the end of the month, but it came in on the Thursday after the council meeting,
Yeah.
most bills aren't due that soon. But if it came in that Thursday, but it was due the week after that, and we didn't sign and send out all those the bills
Yeah.
until the 30th, that one bill's already
But
late.
my point is that when we come into council, there are already bills listed as already paid before we've approved them. Right?
Correct.
Most of
So
them.
there's already, right, so we're already seeing bills that the money has gone out before the council has had an opportunity to say yes or no. So I'm saying, why are there any bills that you're waiting on us for? If there's already the approval that you guys are paying things before council approval.
You're right. You're absolutely correct. But I want to be able to pay those not all at once. I want to pay them the day they come in, and if there's 3
Sure.
that day, and then 2 that.
I don't have a problem.
I don't have a problem with that either.
No,
It
I
makes
understand what you're
perfect
getting at.
sense.
We already spend the money, and then you approve it.
Yeah, I don't care
So I don't
what
think-
grouping you use.
I think that's kind of
We're still just as vulnerable to anything we were vulnerable with, whether you pay them all together or separately, so I don't care.
without the late charges.
we just want you on the same page as
Yep.
where we are.
Yeah.
all
that's
Definitely. Definitely.
See, I'm not good at explaining things, so there it goes. That's
Well,
another
I
one
just
of 'em.
couldn't get, I thought that's the way we always, did it.
We
And that's why I couldn't
we
figure
did.
out why we were getting late charges on some things. They're going,
because we were waiting to send that bill. Went out with the other 15 at the end of the month instead of going out 2 weeks ago. They all went out as one, and so some of them are not due till 15 days after that, but some of them had been done and they're already late. We want to
Right.
get away from that. Okay.
go ahead.
Are there any other items on the agenda?
No.
If we
Moved.
have public comment,
Levi's not gonna miss it.
I think we have public comment.
I approve of his actions.
There's
at this
been
time.
too many
Grant-
meetings that you've been derelict, Levi.
Move to adjourn.
No, we gotta do public
Public-
We already
comment.
did actually before I forgot to do the additions.
Anymore?
Remember, I asked for public
Oh.
comment, and then he said, "Are you going to do the additions?" I said,
I
yeah.
apologize, Levi.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of adjourning the August 11th, 2021 meeting at 9:37, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Got it.
Aye.
Oh, I was gonna say I didn't hear everybody.
So
Motion
Saturday
passes
is
4-0.
the
Thanks, guys.
Time?
9:37 is what I called.
I was just debating about whether to abstain just for Justin's sake.
You raised his blood pressure.
All right.